Hey, folks on the internet. I hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Welcome to Spooky Saturdays. That one Jake guy, thank you so much for your Prime sub. And Archie and Zombie also, I appreciate you guys. How do you get such a nice badge? Zach, I tell you, apparently there's a thing where if you're one of X amount of first subscribers to a channel, they give you a little founder's badge. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, that one Jake guy, for gifting us a sub to Jotun. I hope he enjoys it. Wow, things are happening so fast, so very fast. Yeah, this is my very first affiliated stream. Very exciting. This is an invitation to show yourself. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds wholesome. uh, Apologies if you hear my cat in the background. She is having a mental crisis because she's a cat, and also zombies out and about today, so that's always a fun time. But yeah, this is Spooky Saturday, a just chatting installment where I'm going to share some scary stories, delightful conversation with friends on Twitch. And whether you're here with us live or enjoying the VOD on Twitch or on YouTube later, we're definitely excited to have you here. Oh my god, I got bits! Thank you! Let me get our awesome guest host on here, Thrall Owen. Thrall, how are we doing today?
I am good today. I'm just chilling, ready
Yeah,
to talk about spoopy stuff.
the spookiest.
Spoopiest stuff.
Listen, I enjoy a nice, everybody who knows me knows that I enjoy it. A nice little creepy pasta, a nice little spookum. Uh, Thank you back for all those bits. I understand that one J guy. I enjoy tossing bits. Uh, like toss the bits to everyone I can see when I have the chance. Just 'cause it makes cute little noises and they have little corgis.
I
So
don't
if
toss
you
my
guys,
bits, it hurts.
hmm,
So I don't toss my bits, it'll hurt.
it'll hurt. That's funny. Um, See everybody in the chat, if you guys haven't already checked out um Rawl Owens' Twitch channel, you absolutely should. Uh, you should also give him big follows, as well as just hang out, watch some of his streams. Did I do it right? I did it right. I did the shadow all on my own. Look at me go.
Woo!
Excellent.
Yep, that is my Twitch channel.
Yeah, because I know you're working on affiliate.
I
Which,
am. What was it, like 16 or less more followers?
yeah, you need 16
That's
more
all I
people,
need.
and then I think I feel like that's da, 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 da. Yeah, and then we just gotta make sure you hit the other little thingies that make them
I
that
already
they
have the other little thingies, the average viewers and stuff. I think my average viewers went up, but yeah. Um,
so it literally just at this point is the followers.
yeah,
Well, everyone in chat, everyone watching the VOD, go to twitch.tv/thrall__Owen and hit that beautiful little heart button. Show him how much you enjoy his content. 'Cause I know you do variety games with several
variety
different content
games.
creators.
Sometimes I do painting, crafts, Legos, you know,
Yeah, 'cause you do
whatever.
the little figurine painting too, right?
Yep, sure do. Warhammer 40 or Warhammer Age of Sigmar painting.
Honestly, I really
Um,
enjoyed that one VOD. I think it was like a little dude with an axe that you painted.
little dude with an axe.
You were
Oh,
painting one
probably.
of them, and I was like, "This is like," I was like, "This is fascinating," because I.
Yeah, and then my big purple dinosaur that I was painting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I don't have anything scheduled this week as far as crafts go. Um, My next stream is actually scheduled for tomorrow.
Oh, what are you doing tomorrow?
I think I'm gonna do a little Minecrafting, a little
Nice.
bit of Pixelmon mod for
That's
like
what's up.
Pokemon and Minecraft.
So what I'm hearing is that it's a great time for everybody to check out your channel when
Yeah.
you're live tomorrow and
Yep.
to hit that follow button so they can get notified when it happens.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm excited. And I bet I'm guaranteeing you somebody we're going to get you those followers. Everyone's going to be super excited. I know yesterday I had a real even though I wasn't feeling well, I had a really fun time watching you play Witch It with everybody.
Oh yeah.
You had me going with some you're just standing there as a witch. Just like they'll never
And it,
see me.
you know, you know, if people hadn't have said anything, I don't think anybody would have been noticed.
You almost made it the whole game that way. It was priceless.
Yeah. If people hadn't have said anything, because like three people walked by me and they didn't even look up. It was great. Oh, but that's kind of content. That's Friday community games. You know, but I'm gonna try to keep a pretty tight schedule now
I have to
because
work on scheduling, so I hear you on that.
yeah,
Outside of this one thing I do on Saturdays, it's hit or miss. I have to work on that. But yeah, I know this is your second time with us. Last time you were here with Jotun.
yep. We talked about some different things. We hit on the Mothman a little bit, and what else did we talk about? Some Greek mythology.
We talked about ladies in the lake, like
Oh yeah,
sirens dragging people.
yeah, the sea
Um,
hags and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like good for her, by the way. Good for her. Very impressed. Um,
Uh,
but I know we have, you know how this sort of works, where we'll read each other's stories or talk about different things. We'll have a conversation, just like we're drinking a cup of coffee together. We're gonna discuss all sorts of spooky stuff and stories. Um, and we'll do it sort of like round robin style. Sound good?
sure.
Cool. Well, I did have some information prepped for me. And I did some research myself. So some of this will actually be things that I haven't seen yet. So there is absolutely a chance that this is, just really spooky stuff, or maybe it's fan fiction um of, 1995's classic Braveheart, where Mel Gibson is awesome. I love that.
You're
I love that
you're,
fucking movie. I'm gonna be real with you.
you're still
Don't
on
like
your
Mel Gibson, but I like
you're
the movie.
you're still on your starting soon screen, by the
Yeah,
way.
we're about to hop into
All right.
Bam.
I do like Mel Gibson movies. I don't care for Mel Gibson the person, but I like his movies.
Yeah, and that's
Like
okay.
my
It's okay
face.
to enjoy art, but not the artist. That's how I've been able to enjoy Lovecraft stuff, where I'm like, I enjoy this work, but H.P. Lovecraft sucks as a person. Oh, okay. Well, let me start off with do 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 do. I have a bit of prose I found on the internet, and I think you would enjoy this because it's a very sweet story, I think. If it loads, we'll be able to read it. Very exciting.
Internet problems.
Internet.
Got to love it.
Okay, so this is Fayetteville. Is there anyone here who's ever been to Fayetteville up north? I've been
Mm-mm.
thinking about my hometown a lot recently, but I've been having a hard time finding others on the internet who have heard of the place. For context, this is a story on Reddit. That's where it
Okay.
lives. So this is a post on Reddit. My grandkids tell me you can find anything on the web, But clearly that's not the case. If you know anyone who's been to or is from Fayetteville, or you are yourself, please get in touch with me. I would love to reminisce about my hometown a little. Let me introduce myself. I'm Greg. I'm in my 60s now. I left Fayetteville when I was 22 for an office job that went nowhere, and I never went back. I figured it might be good for me to tell you, fine people, some of the stuff that I remember, even if you don't believe me. At the very least, I hope you all find it interesting. And if you'd like to hear more stories I remember from Fayetteville, please let me know. There's really so much to tell. Fayetteville was a nice place, and I'm not just saying that because I'm old and nostalgic. That's funny. Uh, it is. It had its shares of troubles, but the streets were safe there. Our crime was low, our citizens fed, and we had the most wonderful parks. You could just wander for hours there, entranced by the green. We let our gardens run wild, feral, and flourishing, a merciless riot of color, only being so bold as to tame them when they threatened to overtake the paths that allowed us to look at them safely. They never seemed to mind, perhaps they liked the attention. I'm gonna get ahead of myself. It was one of these gardens that I was wandering the night I broke one of the laws of Fayetteville. Uh, for the first time. I'm so sorry. I just said Fayetteville, which is an actual town. Actually, a bunch of towns are named Fayetteville across the United States.
Yeah.
Fayetteville. Fayetteville. Or perhaps not the first time. I did my share of running wild in my teens. Same as everyone else, but everyone knew that someone who got caught smoking pot or the like would only spend the night in City Hall before being released, hapless and embarrassed, back to his parents. Sounds an awful lot like this is a white dude. Nothing bad ever happened when we got in trouble. So sorry, chat, if you can hear my cat. She's yelling.
Okay.
She can't stop. She's standing in front of his door because she thinks he's in his office. He's not here, baby. Go to sleep. Say good night. I know. Where was I? It was not one of the real laws. Not one of those told to children, not one of the ones that counted. I can hardly remember them all these days, but I remember one clear as day. Be home before the sun sets. I remember when I was young, my parents took me to a movie and lost track of time, so that when we left the theater, it was nearly night, the sky painted in flame. I remember the panicked looks on their faces, the way they hauled me by the arm to our car and broke the speed limits to drive home, fleeing the night. I did not understand why. You must understand, I was quite young and this was before the internet. I had never spoken to someone outside of Fayetteville. This was the way the world worked, and I never thought to question it. The closest I came was considering it parental overcaution as I reached my rebellious youth. I never once, until that night, thought to really question why. I scarcely remember why it was that I was out so late. Some girl, I think. I was a silly, pining youth, dreaming of bringing a pretty girl to a park full of beautiful flowers. I wouldn't have picked one for her because there were laws against that in Fayetteville. Um, but I wandered silly and in what I thought was love. Um, I lost track of where I was. I am so sorry.
No, you're fine. So,
Um,
thought what I thought was love.
yes, thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. I'm silly enough not to notice how late it was getting until I saw the length of the shadows around me. The phrase, a chill ran down my spine, is overused. But more than that, insufficient. There was an ice in my blood, and But more than that, it was a vulnerability, the sense of trespass, the sudden rush of alertness as I realized that I was not safe. I was alone, surrounded by plants that cared nothing for me, and the sun was setting. That's actually like a real thing where it's like the trees are always watching. And it's like you're never alone if you're with the trees. Like who is that? That is kind of creepy. I don't know. I was alone, away from my girlfriend, my parents, away from anyone who cared about me, and the sun was setting. I had never stayed out after dark, and the sun was setting. The sun was setting, and I was afraid. I ran. Like I said, Fayetteville was a reasonable place. You couldn't stay out past dusk, but there was no reason you needed to be in your own home. So the city constructed makeshift shelters, little more than glorified bus stations, places to hide from the oncoming night. Everyone knew about them. There was one on every street corner, one by the school, many by the park in the city, a place to hide everywhere you looked. There was barely enough to fit um, 2 or 3 people in it, but it was enough for me. It took me only a few minutes to reach the nearest shelter, but in that time the shadows had lengthened. I could put no name to the fear that took me as the sky shifted to purple and blue, the stars glittering like tiny eyes. I only knew in my heart of hearts, the part of me that is still a child hearing my mother's stories, the part of me that was still a frightened mammal scurrying to the den, that I needed to be inside, even the paltry inside of a shelter. The shelters, despite the importance of them, were not that impressive. They looked more like outhouses almost. 4 flimsy walls, a door, and little else. But the door locked, and I remembered the wave of relief that swept through me as I crashed inside and slammed the door behind me hard enough to shake it before collapsing against it. I was safe. In the morning, I could return to my parents and be cassetted and scolded and grounded, but alive. I even dared to mock myself for my terror. What could be the problem? Only children were afraid of the dark. This was Fayetteville, where it was safe. I should have just walked home. But I didn't leave the shelter. I had just settled myself on the hard cot, ready to wait out the night, when I heard the pound of footsteps. There was a judder as a body slammed against the door, someone losing control of their momentum and their panic. Please, I heard a voice gasp. Please, please, I know, but please. I didn't wait. Perhaps I should have. Perhaps I should have thought about it more. I've thought about it a lot over the years. I did not. I had the door open in an instant and the person ducked inside, collapsing against the wall the same way I had. Shut it, they gasped. Shut it, shut it. Now, hurry. The lock slid home with a click, and I turned to them. Are you hurt? I didn't know what I could do about it if they were, but I thought I should ask. But they did not look hurt, only shaky and tired.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. She was literally quiet all morning up until I was about to hit start streaming. And then she decided that this was going to be her chance to sing the song of her people. She was like, oh, are we affiliate now? Fantastic. Do I have a song for everyone?
She's just celebrating.
She's excited, guys. She's so excited. Please lay down, you nutcase. Good night. Um, let's see. They did not look hurt, only shaky and tired. They were tall and thin, with long, stick straight dark hair. There was little light in the shelter, only what filtered through the tiny windows, and it made their eyes look wide and dark and strange. They gave me a dubious look and struggled to their feet. I'm fine, they said brusquely. They said nothing more, leaning against the wall with their arms crossed and staring out the window. I hesitated. So, what were you running from? They gave me a withering stare. The night, obviously, they said, voice dripping with icy scorn. I snapped my mouth shut. I was jittery, fidgeting. where I sat in a tiny cot, and it seemed, I thought ruefully, that I was going to be spending the night with someone after all.
The ching.
Okay. So,
Oh, chicka wow wow.
no, I mean, it seems like this is like we're like odd fellows stuck in a wooden lean-to on the corner of the park because the night is going to, oh my goodness, girl, the night is dark and full of terrors. Oh, George R. R. Martin, do not come for me. The shelter had no clock. We waited there silent for what seemed like hours, but could not have been minutes. I scratched at the scab on my nails, wondering if braving the night and the dangers it theoretically contained would have been better than this. I was on the verge of falling asleep when I heard the scream. It was piercing, a ululating howl that rose in a fearful crescendo, the sound of a woman in some terrible pain. I had already rose to my feet and I was at the door before I consciously realized it. My hand on the doorknob before the stranger in there with me grabbed my wrist. Their grip was strong, their skin cold, their long nails digging into my skin. Don't, they hissed. I stared at them. Are you crazy? Theirs. Shut up and listen. They dragged me away from the door. I was athletic, a broad, healthy young man. But they, whoever they were fearfully strong. I struggled to no avail. Listen. It was at that moment the scream came again. I hissed through my teeth, yanking against their vice like hands on me when something occurred to me. The eye of memory threw up a card and then went and hid. It had been the same scream, the exact same scream, the same wailing, shrieking crescendo, like a recording played over again. I froze, even my breath stopped in my chest. And it came again, the same sound, like a recording, or perhaps not the same sound. This time it sounded higher, like a cold like an Arctic wind. There was a faint distortion too, I realized. I didn't know how to describe it, only a subtle warping that I wouldn't have noticed had I not been so tensed, fearful, my senses blown wide to the structure of the world. The stranger released me. I didn't open the door, instead stumbling backward to sink weakly onto the cot. Everything seemed far away, I realized, distantly, that my hands were shaking. What? The stranger shrugged. They were tense too, I realized. There was a practiced air of nonchalance about them, but I saw the way they sent glances towards the door and windows, shifting their weight on their feet as if preparing to run. Haven't you, they said, ever heard of an anglerfish? Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. Um, I didn't ask what they meant. I didn't want to know. Perhaps it seems odd to you that I didn't question it or try to see for myself. I promise you, you would not have opened the door either. Few people could have been curious enough to look in the face of that cold howl. Questions were for the sunlight and the comfort of your own home. In the moment, all that I did was swallow. Can, are we safe in here? The walls which had seemed flimsy but sufficient suddenly seemed to be made of paper. The stranger looked at me again. They did not seem friendly. Their eyes were still wide and odd, but their face seemed to soften a little as they looked at me and took in how frightened I must have seemed, how out of my depth I was. That's what these are here for, they said. As long as we don't open the door until sunrise, we will be fine. All we have to do is wait. All we had to do was wait. I no longer tried to sleep. I felt like a caveman keeping watch at the mouth of a cave, staring alone into the darkness. Every shift in the underbrush, the sign of a wolf or a tiger. I was hiding in a flimsy little shelter, my only companion an unknown quantity. without even the benefit of a spear in my hand. It was this vigilance that made it so when it was to shift the movement outside the window, I caught it. What? Shh. I closed my mouth immediately. Rude or not, the stranger clearly knew more about this than I did. Whatever was going on, and I had no idea what could be. I was not willing to die for my pride. That's fair and reasonable. I would not die for my pride either. We stared at the tiny window. I was just about to write off the movement as a trick of a tired and frightened mind when it came again. I froze like a rabbit hiding from a fox. There was something outside the window. I couldn't see what it could be. All I could see was a shadow. There was something outside the window, but I could hear no footsteps, only faint shadows behind the too thin glass. I was still except for my breath, which came fast and rough. I couldn't seem to get enough air. An anglerfish. My thoughts murmured treacherously. An anglerfish. Shh, the stranger whispered again. Shh. We were silent, staring. It seemed too dark in the shelter. Somehow it was night, but nights were not truly black, even without the full moon that shone fat and pale in the sky. It was darker than it should be, not enough light coming through the window. I didn't breathe again until the gray light of the moon returned, and the movements outside were gone. Air rushed out of my chest with a long, slow shudder. You picked a bad night to get caught outside. My gaze snapped around to the stranger, whose gaze remained as cool and inscrutable as before. It had dawned on me how odd it was that I had never seen them before. Fayetteville was not a large town. One couldn't know every single person who lived there. But I was sociable and wandered frequently whenever I could. There were few people in town who I was unfamiliar with, but I didn't know their face, their name. At the time, I didn't ask. Something about doing so seemed wrong. How so? I ventured. They turned their eyes back into the night outside. Bad night, they said. Lots of folks about. Would have been better to stay indoors, follow the laws. What do you mean by folk? All I received in return was a disdainful stare. Weren't you taught anything? I was silent and resolved to ask my parents when the morning came, and I could get out of this alive. Carefully, I ventured instead. Well, why were you out so late? Coffee's very good. They shrugged. Visiting. And there was no elaboration given. I wasn't sure if they were being intentionally opaque, or if they didn't realize more information was usually given, but I let it slide. They were here and they were helping me, and that was the important thing. I couldn't keep precise track of time, but it only seemed a short while before the next attempt came. Three sharp knocks on the door, and then a voice, masculine and professional. Are you folks all right in there? I jumped. Hearing another person's voice seemed strange somehow. We'd left the real world for the realm of confusion and shadow, and hearing a police officer seemed so normal it felt incongruous. Yes, officer, we're all right, I called. Next to me, the stranger tensed up, their wide, dark eyes focused on the door. Don't open the door, they whispered. Their voice was soft, but I could hear them clearly. I startled. What? It's a cop. But then I remembered the anglerfish. So whatever's out there, this is me out of story. So whatever's out there is trying to get them to open the door so it can get them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Why? What I would assume
Oh, there's just so much I want to know. Uh,
we.
Knox came again. Do you mind if I come in and take a look? It's just it's like four walls and a window and a cot. There's not a lot to look in there. That's funny. It sounded so normal. What was the worst part of it? It didn't have the distortion the scream had had. It sounded like a man's voice, tired and waiting to get off his beat and go home. But I knew the police officers in Fayetteville. My father was one, and I'd met most of his colleagues. and I didn't know this voice. Knocking, knocking. I stayed silent, staring at the door. Hello? The police officer's voice was frustrated now. Open this door. The stranger and I said nothing. A snarl, a low, furious snarl. Knocking, harder and faster. I could have you folks arrested. Open this door. After another minute or so of silently waiting, whatever was outside hissed. It wasn't like a person hissing, nor really like the sound of a snake. More than anything else, it seemed like the sound of the wind rustling through dry grass. Then footsteps, walking away. Is that is that the same thing as before? The stranger shrugged. We didn't speak. I couldn't bring myself to find words to say, only to sit on the cot and stare tense at the thin door, the windows that probably could have been shattered with a blow. Small talk was for the real world, the sunlit world, the world that I understood. Still, somehow, I found it in myself to be even bored in my terror. One can get used to fear if you feel it for long enough. The only thing beside us in the shelter was a tiny shelving unit shoved into the corner. It had nothing on it except a container of salt that I found to be mostly empty and a tiny book. I don't remember the contents, only that it was one of those dime store novels. I hefted the container of salt, considering. It seemed appropriate somehow. I remember something my mother told me. Salt, she said, was important. Keep that. I jumped, glancing at the stranger. They were still staring at the window into the alien night. They glanced over at me, eyeing the salt container with a look of dubiousness before turning their gaze back to the window. We might need it. We might. Just keep it, just in case. I asked in case of what, but they were not forthcoming. I set it back down and opened the little novel. The pages were ragged, the spine was broken, but it was still very much readable. I had finished about a fourth of it when there came a great crash as something landed on the roof. I swore and dropped the book, jumping to my feet. The stranger pushed me back down. Just wait, they said, but their dark, dark eyes were even wider than before with fear. I sat back down, shaking, my eyes fixed on the ceiling. Heavy footfalls echoed through the tiny room as something moved on top of the shelter. I heard scratching, as if from a great claws. The world seemed to hold its breath before with a sound, like a great rush of air. Whatever had landed on the shelter had seemed to disappear. I'm never going out at night again, I said weakly. The stranger did not smile, but they made a sound that could have been a laugh, if you squinted. We waited in the dark for a while. After that, I had heard the same scream as before, farther off, and hoped that everyone knew to stay inside no matter what. Some time after that, there were bells like those on a bridle, and the sound of many horses riding together. At that, the stranger seemed to freeze too, holding their breath until the riders, if that's indeed what they were, had disappeared back into the night. Many times I had thought I had saw a pale face looking in, pressed up against the glass. When I looked at the window, there was only darkness and shadows. I had almost finished my book when I heard running footsteps. I didn't look up. The image of the anglerfish in the back of my mind. Whatever this was a trick. I knew it. No matter what, I would not open the door. That resolution died as soon as whatever had reached the door, pounding on it with desperate hands. Gregory. I nearly shrieked, shooting to my feet. Mom? The stranger stepped in front of the door, heedless of my mother's shouts. Do not open it. Their voice was low and cold. I cast a desperate glance towards the window. It was a trick. It was a trick. It was the anglerfish again. I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. I just. Gregory, please, my mother sobbed. Please, please let me in. Please. I stepped forward, the stranger tense, but I wasn't going for the doorknob. Why are you outside this late, Mom? I called. My mother paused in her weeping, apparently shocked. Gregory, why would you ask me that? I feel like that's a valid question if, like, there was one rule in town.
Yeah, one rule: don't go out at night. Why are you out at night?
Yeah, like, is this the one rule? Like, of course he's gonna ask why you're actually out. This is a trap. It's a tarp. I bit my lip. There was no guilt in the world worse than a child betraying their parent. Why are you out so late? I was looking for you, she sucked in a breath, trying to steady herself. You were gone and I was so worried. Your father Jonathan and I froze. My mother, I said with a bite in my voice, has never called my father anything other than Joe in her whole life. There was a red fury rising in my chest. It did not overtake the terror, but mingled with it, mixed with it, creating potent boiling stew. How dare this thing, whatever it is, take my mother's face, her voice? Try harder than that, I called, sitting back down on the bed. The lure had almost gotten me, but I would avoid the teeth this time. I won't open the door. It didn't snarl like the cop had. Gregory? The thing that was not my mother sounded confused. I heard the door shake as it pounded on it. Gregory, please, it's me. I bit my lip and I said nothing. I would not. I would not. I would not. There was a sound like a snarl, and the thing that could not be my mother let out a shrill wail and pounded even harder. No, no, Gregory, Gregory, please let me in, let me in, let me in. Don't do it, the stranger said. Their eyes were on me, hard and dark. You'll kill us both. I was frozen. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I covered my ears with my hands, closed my eyes, and curled up into a ball. I could still hear the screaming, the begging, the desperate pounding on the door. I could still hear it. It seemed like I could never stop hearing it. There was another snarl and then a desperate rising shriek, and I had my hands over my ears. But then I heard a wet sound, a meaty sound, like a knife slicing through chicken. I sobbed. No. But then silence. Slowly, I uncovered my ears. Something ran its claws down the door. It felt like my heart would stop in my chest. A voice came. It was not my mother's voice. It was her voice, but it was not her. She could never sound like that. It said, we'll find another way in. The stranger spoke, but I didn't understand the words. But the language felt eerie. Something about it put me in mind of dark pathways through green trees. Evidently, whatever was outside understood better than I. It snarled, still using a replica of my mother's voice. It hit the door once, a blow that made the wall shake, but it didn't break it. But before it, I heard its footsteps receding into the night. There was nothing else until morning. I didn't move until the stranger did, following them meek as a mouse as they unlocked the door and stepped outside. The dawn was welcome as a lifeboat to a drowning man. After so long in the dark, the sight of the normal street in the gray early morning seemed unreal. I fell to my knees, pressing my hands into the pavement just to feel the solidity of it, the realness. And when I looked up, I saw the stranger walking away. Hey! They jumped, turning around as I caught up with them. They looked so different in the sunlight. Their eyes seemed less wide and dark, their skin less pale. They could have been any person on the street. Let me walk you home, I said. Make sure you get home safely. It's the least I can do after you. I fell silent. What would have happened to me if I had been alone and opened the door? Or even worse, left the safety of the shelter? I found that my mind skithered away from the possibilities. All that mattered, I told myself, was that I had avoided the anglerfish's jaw. The stranger regarded me for a moment before nodding. A favor for a favor. This is correct. Yo, that sounds like some Fae shit.
Yeah.
They did not say thank you, only turned back down the street and continued walking. Did we just solve it? No. We walked in silence. Around us, Fattaville continued to wake up, lights switching on in businesses, people out with their dogs. It all seemed so normal. I shuddered whenever we were past the shelter. It didn't seem like it could be real, but I couldn't find it in myself to convince myself that I had been dreaming. I had heard the scream, the footsteps, seen the shadows. I had heard something pretending to be my mother, pretend to be murdered while I did nothing. Tears pricked at my eyes. I bowed my head. I couldn't believe that I had done that, that I had a reason. I had known it wasn't her. It didn't stop me feeling like a coward. You're not a coward. I was startled. What? The stranger's voice was in the daylight, still cool and blunt, but a little warmer, a little more normal. They looked at me. I couldn't tell what it was they were thinking. Their eyes were just inscrutable as a reptile's. You acted to protect your own life. That was the correct choice. Don't be stupid and convince yourself otherwise. Slowly I nodded. I didn't know why. It was hardly advice, but I began to feel better. We continued to walk. I saw a young woman coming out of another shelter and waved. I wondered how the rest of the town had fared that night. Hopefully, no one else had opened the door. No one else had let the darkness in. I wondered if I would find out about it if they had. The stranger came to a stop. This is me. I paused, blinking. I had been expecting a house, obviously, or one of the rare apartment complexes, but this was just a park. It was different than the one I'd been wandering last night with less flowers and more trees. I couldn't see in between the trunks, only gray greenish shadow. I shied away. After this, I wouldn't judge anyone who wasn't scared of the dark. I seemed preeminently reasonable. Here? They nodded and looked at me. Be more careful next time. I nodded, but they didn't need to tell me twice. But they weren't done talking. This is a good place, but there are laws. If we want to keep it that way, we all have to follow them. They reached forward and poked me in the chest. They were still strong, and I stumbled back. I. They had been standing right in front of me when I looked down at their hand for only a moment. They had been standing in front of me when I started to raise my head, their shoes clearly in my field of vision. They were not standing in front of me when I raised my head all the way, staring at an empty street. Slowly, I turned to look at the woods. The dark green woods, night caught beneath the canopy. I bowed to the woods, short and respectful, and then turned towards home. And that's it. That's all we got. It was actually it was a little longer than I anticipated. This was Fattaville, which was a story posted on No Sleep, the subreddit No Sleep on Reddit, by user this haze this hazel-eyed demon 1 month ago. I actually really liked it.
It's intriguing because it never really tells you what was after
No.
him. It's
And it's
very intriguing.
it is definitely super weird because it's like that whole thing like people predators out there in the dark hunting, like, early man being afraid of the dark because of predators being out there. Um and like it just sounds like this is like a little slice of Americana. Everyone's having a great time. There's no crime or anything like that. And then suddenly,
The only rule: don't be outside at dark. And it seems like, if you're really curious, if you're a dumb kid and you really want to know what's outside at dark, you're not going to make it.
it really does. And it does, honestly, my first thought is like if that Fae creature, who I've decided is Fae, I've just decided that, headcanon, wasn't there, Homeboy would have absolutely opened that door for the police officer. He was just like, yeah, sure. Like, didn't even question it. He's like, okay, nothing ever
Yeah,
bad. Nothing bad will happen to me. Like,
it's a cop. Wait, if I'm not supposed to be out at night, nobody's supposed to be out at night. Why are the cops out at night? Especially after this thing came around once. Weird.
it sounds like they were trying to set up a series on No Sleep. I'll have to check it out later. But it definitely sounds super. I actually, again, I really enjoyed that. The writing style, it definitely had the right amount of spook to it.
Yeah.
And there was definitely for a moment that thought, like, oh my God, that really was his mom. And she just got fucking wrecked. I shouldn't laugh at that.
Opened the door and big pile of blood and guts in the middle of
Yeah, if he had opened the door the next morning to that,
it.
damn, like, whoopsie. Guess you shouldn't open the door. What?
My thing is like there's a couple of little details in there that really okay. There's salt. You might need that, but never wound up using it. That's
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing, but like, what's salt gonna do? I know they say salt's a good thing to keep monsters and demons and stuff away, but my thing is, it was almost gone. So whatever's out there knows about these little huts.
You know what? I've never actually thought to question why why people. I have to consult Dr. Google.
Dr. Google.
Uh,
Hello, Al.
okay, so it
How
looks
are
like it's
you?
a religious superstition.
Al's in chat.
Hmm?
Al's in chat.
Owls. Ow! If it isn't owl. Oh my god, you put a salt emoji in there.
Well, we were talking about salt.
I know, I'm trying to figure out why, and it's making me read a bunch of things.
I don't know
Um,
because if you like watch like Supernatural and stuff like that, they use a lot of salt
yeah.
and stuff. I never before Supernatural, I never heard of salt keeping bad things away.
Oh no, I remember the movie Hocus Pocus. That was a pivotal point where they had to line the place in salt so that way they could survive the Sanderson sisters until sunrise.
I thought they just ran to the cemetery because they couldn't set foot on hollow ground.
I don't even remember. It was so long ago. You
Yeah,
can tell I
no.
am an awesome person. Um, salt deterring. I was about to type spookums, but then I realized that the internet does not understand me. Demons. Okay, so so salt being a pure byproduct of the earth. Uh, it's so weird. So because it's pure, it helps to repel and protect from negative spirits or from other spirits. So when you think of salt, I just have to go on a tangent here. So salt is used in a lot. It's not just like in like Judeo-Christian stuff. I mean, you see it in a lot of different cultures around the world as being like a pure item to keep bad things away. And there's definitely a lot of superstitions around salt. Like the whole if you spill salt, you need to throw it over your left shoulder to confuse negative spirits that are trying to get you or to ward off bad luck.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole thing with the Fae folk where if you come across a fae folk, a small folk, like a leprechaun, for instance. I'm going to use as an example. Um, One way you can stop them from advancing on you would be to put salt down because they have to stoop and count each granule of salt before they can proceed.
Why doesn't the leprechaun run naked through the grass?
I don't
Because it tickles his balls.
know.
Sorry.
No, that's funny.
Sorry, chat.
but but no, it looks like salt is definitely it's I'm trying to find a specific thing.
Apparently,
Um
it originated in Buddhism,
well, as
according to
I'm
what I'm
looking through,
seeing.
there's it looks like around it's been a lore for a minute,
Yeah.
like across a bunch of different.
Throw salt over your shoulder before entering a house after a funeral.
Yep.
Mm, to cleanse any evil spirits that may be clinging to your back. You know what else is good at keeping your evil spirits away? So they say.
Mhm.
Kitty cats.
Yes.
Yes, they say when you buy a new house, just if you own a cat, just let it run around the house before you go into it. It chases away any negative energy or evil spirits.
Well, I mean,
Or, um,
Proto-Germanic and Nordic cultures, it was customary to give a kitten to a bride to help them keep good energies in the home.
yeah,
I mean, as a person who owns a cat who is derpy and is quiet right now, thank you. Uh, I can definitely attest. There's definitely something interesting about the whole correlation between even just across different superstitions, different cultures, like that whole idea of like cats can see beyond our veil of perception and that they ward off negative things or what have you. Like
I
those
can,
creepy videos where like pets are just staring at the corner and it's like, what are they seeing? Like,
yeah.
what do they see that I
Like,
don't see?
I'm gonna tell you, when this house, my mom used to live in this house, and not my room. Well, her room, and then it turned into my room. But now my brother's room. He's like, I used to go up there in the afternoon, and I felt like something would lay on the bed next to me, but there wouldn't be nothing there. I'm
Mm,
like, that's weird. Okay, whatever. And then it turned into my room, and I'd lay on the bed and I'd get the same feeling. Now we have a cat. Actually, we have two cats, but at that time we only had one. So the one day the cat was in my room and I laid on the bed, and this cat never hissed, it never meows, it never does anything. And I laid on the bed, and all of a sudden the cat just like jumps up and like hissed, and then it just curled up and laid down. It was weird because he never did that.
he was not about
And
that noise. He was like, you better get the hell out of here.
and I'm like, that's weird. And I don't know, it just, and then after that, I never really got that feeling. Like every time I was in that room, I got a feeling that there was something in that room, something in that room. Now, after that, when I went in there, I didn't get that feeling that there was something in there anymore. It's just weird. It's just a feeling.
No, I mean, I get that completely. I mean, even I
Here's your
think
reminder.
the whole idea of
Take
like
pills.
even in like Egyptian
Here's your
mythos.
reminder. Take pills.
Sorry if you heard my Alexa going off.
No worries.
It was reminding me to take my meds.
That is fair and reasonable.
But
Mine usually does a
yeah,
creep. My phone usually does a creepy noise to remind. It like does like a creepy like nursery rhyme like
but
piano.
it's just weird. Like there's like I have these certain things where sometimes because this house I've lived in this house and then I've moved out and then I moved back in. Now my mom don't live here no more, but my brother does. But like there's certain things, certain rooms in this house that I don't like to go into or even walk past when it's dark or nothing because I just get a weird feeling. So like our basement. I know everybody all the typical basement. Our basement's like a half basement. It's old, it's stone. My house was built in the 1800s. But like if I'm downstairs in the kitchen and I have to walk past the basement to get to the pantry, I make sure there's like a light or something on before I walk past it. It's just creepy. I
No, I
don't know.
hear
It's
you.
just weird.
My basement is fully lit and it's not scary being down there, but I don't like the stairs to the basement because they're open back and like the whole thought of like what if something
Yeah.
grabs you and then you fall backwards. I mean, I have legitimately fallen backwards down a flight of stairs and like survived unscathed. I had a bruise so bad on my side from where I fell that when it healed, like it fell off, which sounds gross, but like it was kind of gross. Like it had damaged the skin so much that like as it healed, it pushed the damaged skin and the damaged
Yeah.
tissue out of my body. It was like
Yeah.
we're done with that. No. I had
But
never heard that apparently that's a thing with like severe trauma. I didn't know that was a thing, but like that was like a solid back stair. The stairs, I don't go down in my basement specifically because Zombie told me I'm not allowed to because I fell in there once and he was concerned I would fall in there by myself. So he's like, you can't go down there. And I'm like, oh, okay. But open back stairs, because usually a lot of basement stairs are like that where they're open back because of how they're set up to be like a different like vibe aesthetically from the house. Like most people don't have finished basements. They're usually
yeah.
unfinished, just kind of like, and this is
Yeah.
the
A
creepy ass
concrete
area of our house.
a concrete basement with like maybe a furnace in it or something like that. Our
Exposed light
basement,
bulb.
yeah, our basement has washer dryer, uh, pellet stove, so like a wood pellet stove, and like a workbench area thing in it. So we when we do our laundry, we have to go down the basement. Now I don't know if when you do laundry, you do all your laundry, blah blah blah, load after load after load. I tend to forget. So like sometimes at like 11:30 at night, I'm like, oh shit, I have to go down in the basement and change my laundry over before I go to bed. That is the scariest damn thing to me in the world. Like having to go down to that basement after dark. I hate it. Can't stand it.
So I actually, because our washer and dryer is in the basement, and Zombie has like hard ruled I'm not allowed to go down there because he's like, you will fall. Like, okay,
Who's
fair.
zombie keeping in the basement?
No, so he does the laundry. I mean, I've been down there, but like he gets nervous about me falling if he's not here. He's so cute like that. He's like, must keep Bunny safe. But also, like the place I lived before here, like to get to the laundry, to get to my washer and dryer, I would have to go outside out of my kitchen back door and then kitty corner into an enclosed washer and dryer room that opened to the outside. So I would have to leave my house, turn around, open another door to enter into a specific laundry room. And I would never have a problem doing that. But even when I was going up and down into the laundry room here, down in the basement, I didn't like it at all. It was like it'd be dark out, and I'm like, nope, this is weird. I think there's definitely something to be said. Basements are
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, no, that's another thing I find creepy. Like everybody says this is my hang on it. Like I was told to make a bag of snacks. Says this is the most weird, even weirder than the basement thing that I have. I cannot sleep in a room that has a mirror in it.
You know, I've heard, there's a lot of different superstitions about mirrors. Like some people believe that they're windows to other realms. And there's like a whole esoteric thing about locking your mirror so things can't come in or out.
Like,
And certain Judeo-Christian sects will have you cover mirrors in your home um when someone's died in the family, or like not to have a mirror where you sleep for that purpose so that way you can protect yourself. I have a mirror in my room just because I like to be able to, like, when I wake up, look at my face and be like, "You're beautiful," and do like the little finger guns, and then go about my day.
well, see,
But
I used to have a mirror. When I had my own apartment, I had a dresser who that had the detachable mirror.
yeah,
And then, which was in my bedroom, no big deal, according to most people. Anyway, and then I had another room, because I had a 2 room apartment, that I had another dresser and had a mirror on that dresser as well. You know, the first night I was in that apartment, I could not sleep in either room. I had to sleep in the living room on the couch. Like, and then after that, I had to take the mirror down. Like,
hmm.
and another room that I used to sleep in this house has a dresser that had a mirror in it. Well, that one wasn't removable. So I used to take t-shirts and gray tape them over the mirror just so I could sleep. It's just I can't do it. I can't like I have no problems with mirrors. Like I can, at night or whatever, mirrors in the bathroom at night. Mirror I walk past mirrors in the hallway. No, but if there's a mirror in my room, I can't sleep. It's weird. And I can't sleep in complete darkness either. There has to be some form of light. I know I'm 30 something years old and I can't sleep in a dark room.
Well, it looks like a lot of people believe that sleeping with a mirror in the room can cause bad luck or nightmares.
Yeah, and I have nightmares to begin with, so. And sleep paralysis. Oh my god, sleep paralysis is so bad. I think during my sleep paralysis, I see shit that's real and nobody believes me.
I
It's the
mean,
sleep demons keeping me in a
it's
paralyzed state.
entirely, and I always find it like it's for me, it's like a thought. You know me, I like to overthink everything, and like I find it super interesting and fascinating to like think about the differences between what our perceived reality is and what is actually there. Because, of course, people can perceive what's in front of them, what we can touch, taste, smell, see, um, specific wavelengths like colors, um, different, just from a scientific standpoint, looking at that, like, okay, well, the things could definitely be happening around us that we just can't perceive. So it's like at what point do we draw the line between this experience you're having is extraordinary because it's a figment of your imagination, or it's extraordinary because you're able to perceive something that's there that you shouldn't be able to? I mean, it's just super fascinating to think about. I don't have any information backing one way or another. Um, but it's a weird like like a little thought experiment. Like, okay, if you could perceive something when you're in like a sleep state, would that be what you're perceiving? What does that mean? The whole idea of being able to astral travel in your sleep, or taking initiative into meditating with the idea of astral traveling, where your consciousness goes. Are these experiences things that you have created in your mind to kind of balance out what you're expecting your experience to be? Or are you actually transcending your own consciousness into a different plane of existence? Like, at what point do we draw the line and say, this is measurable, this is not? It's just crazy.
Is it your birthday, Archie?
Archie, hello. I believe it's a child's birthday. Tell them Auntie Bunny said happy birthday.
And they subscribed. Did you get an alert?
Oh,
Um,
Archie was the
Founder.
second person when I hit affiliate when I was getting. Actually, Archie helped me set up my channel points system.
Nice.
Um, my channel points are called questions, and you can see it's an axe.
Nice.
So I can ask you a question.
So yeah. Anyway, with the perceived reality stuff, yeah, that's what they say cats do. They can transcend and perceive a different reality than us. Now, that being said, they also say that kids are more susceptible to it. That being
Yes.
said, I have two older brothers. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, when I was a kid, and I'm talking like 6, maybe even younger than that, probably younger than that, I remember waking up one night and looking over at my oldest brother, and I swear to God, there was this woman floating over his bed, right?
Okay.
And I remember it clear as day. I remember. And then I got up the next morning and I told mom that there was a woman in our room that night, and I described perfectly what she looked like, right?
Yeah.
And my mom's like looking at me weird. And then she pulls out a photo album, and here it is my mom's real mother, not my grandmother, but well, my grandmother, but my mom's real mom, because my grandfather has
Biological mother.
remarried. Yeah, uh, who had passed, and she's like, did she look like? I said, I swear to God, it looked exactly like her. Like, and I remember it clear as day, just floating over my brother's bed. But it was like weird because she had committed suicide. So
That's
like,
awful.
yeah. But it's like it's weird because being that young and seeing that, and first it's the only time that I remember seeing that. But it's like I still remember it to this day clear as day. And everybody's like, you did not. You did not. And then years later, like I was like 10 or 11, I was at my great grandmother's house and my grandfather's mom's house. Who the house has been in the family for years and years and years and years. I was in the driveway and I looked up in the attic window and there's an old, not an old man, like a guy in like his 50s,
Yeah.
standing there in a suit and tie. I'm like, that's weird. And I didn't think nothing of it. Well,
Right.
when we stayed at my great grandmother's, we stayed in the attic. And I, towards the one corner of the attic, there was a room off, and we always got a weird feeling about that room, like bad feeling. You know how you get a weird feeling, then you get a weird bad feeling.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling mom about it. Anyway, the guy in the suit turned out to be, when I described him to my grandfather, turned out to be my grandpa John. So not my grandfather's dad, but my grandmother's second husband or something like that.
Mhm.
So that's who that turned out to be. Just apparently he liked to watch people from the attic window when he was old. So that's why he was in the attic. But anyway, I remember I was in the attic one day and we found this little cubbyhole door, and it like gave me a really bad feeling about the cubbyhole door. And I swear, when I went to open the cubbyhole door, somebody had put their hand on my shoulder and told me no. And I've never been in that attic since.
So what's in the cubby hole door?
My mom told me that before my parents took it over, in the cubbyhole door, there's a whole nother bedroom. And it used to be the slave's room.
Oh.
And apparently, I guess through the stories of the thing, a slave or something died in that room, not in a good way.
Oh my God.
So,
Okay,
like,
so the home, due to its age, had a walled off room that had a cubby hole door to it, and that
yeah,
used to be the quarters where the the homeowners at one point had an indentured. Oh my God. So,
yeah. And it's weird. And actually, my uncle owns that house now. So, like, it's still in the family. The house is still in the family. But he was thinking about completely redoing the attic, and my grandfather told him that wouldn't be a good idea.
no, I mean, that's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm just like my brain is.
Like, there was like all these instances that I can remember, and that I still get weird feelings about some of this stuff. And everybody says, "Oh no, you're crazy. You're not. That didn't happen," or "You're seeing stuff," or stuff like that. Or they blame it on my mental health state because, like I said, I get nightmares real easy. But I
Yeah.
think I just perceive things easier than everybody else.
No, I mean, that's definitely a fair. Again, I'm not a mental health professional. I am not a doctor, so I can never tell someone my a medical opinion. But as a person who has experienced crazy ass metaphysical shit that cannot be explained otherwise, I can definitely get behind the idea that of a person being, especially from a young age, being sensitive to those different energies. Because it is just like you said, a lot of the times when people have, paranormal things happen that they recall distinctly, it's from their childhood. It's almost like as children, there's no filters put on to there's no real context to kind of limit or like guardrail what they're seeing and perceiving. So to them, they're like, "Oh, cool. That's a floating old lady at the end of the bed. Okay, cool. I just saw that." Because no one's told them like, "Hey, you actually don't see stuff like that. That's not normal." And by conditioning children within like, okay, this is normal, this is what's not normal, it's almost like that whole thought of like we're limiting children's perception by giving them the context of what is or is not considered normal or sane. And it's like that whole thing, it's like what is magic but science we don't yet understand. So is it possible that people can be sensitive over time to see? I believe absolutely, for sure. And I for sure actually I believe you. I believe what you're telling me, what you experienced wholeheartedly because that
Even
makes
to
sense to me.
even to this day, like, yes, I am on mental health meds. I'm not gonna deny that I am. But
No, and there's nothing wrong with taking your health seriously.
even to this day, there's certain things like in my apartment, my old apartment. Like, I would see little shadows and stuff in my apartment at night, like little black figures with red eyes and stuff like that. And it's just weird. Everybody's like, "Oh no, you're seeing stuff." No, like I can get up and walk around, and I'd see it like dart around a corner, or I'd see it go in another room, and then if I went towards that room, I'd get this little eerie feeling. But like, and I'm not a religious person at all, so like I have no crosses or anything. I'm not religious at all. So what I think I'm perceiving is just, to me, it's like either the evil fairies. I believe in that thing. I believe in like,
Like the whole Gaelic culture of like fae folk and all that.
yeah, like that, or the Greek mythology. That's really strong with me too. So it could be one of the,
Absolutely, Ty, you can't trust the fae.
yeah, or even the Greek gods. They like to come down and mess with you. You know what I mean?
The whole this my personal I hate to get personal on it, but the whole dichotomy of like good versus evil, the whole thing is such a human construct. Like,
Yeah, I'm
if
not
you look
saying
at a
that.
tree, is a tree good or evil? It's a fucking tree, my guy. So like the
It's a
same is gonna be said about like yes, there are definitely people who do evil shit for sure, and
trees
they're
are not
awful.
evil.
Trees are evil.
It
It's
brings me
canon.
to that. It brings me to that old meme that oxygen is a poison. It just takes years and years and years to kill us.
Actually, no, that's some real shit. Like that's backed by science. Think about it. Oxidization. Like at some point, once you've hit like your growth, like you've hit like 25 or whatever, where you're at that point forward, like your body is breaking down slowly because of oxidization. I'll have to look it up so I can provide you that. But um, fake birds.
Hey, how's the
They house the fake burbs. But no, I mean, it is definitely
But
it's wild. And
yeah,
as a completely unrelated note, I saw a comic say this and I have to repeat it. Can't remember the comic's name, so I'm so sorry. Don't come at me, chat. But like that whole idea of like what kind of like uh bitch kind of ghost haunts an apartment. You telling me this ghost couldn't even get a home before they decided to haunt someone? Like like he was going off and he was like come on, you weren't you're gonna haunt an apartment. But
say my old apartment. It's again an old farmhouse that they turned into three apartments.
oh, okay, that makes
So
sense then. So
again,
yours wasn't a bitch ass ghost with a poor
built
credit
in like
score.
the 1800s.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like yeah, it's just weird. And yeah, I have lived some places where I didn't get these feelings and stuff, but then again, I've lived places where it's like, okay, I'm not going in that room because I don't like that room. I'm not going to sleep in that room.
Yeah.
Like the room my niece is in, like right next door to my room. I won't sleep in that room. Nope. I get a weird feeling in that room at night. I will not sleep in it.
No,
But
that's
her being 11 years old, she has no problem sleeping in it. Whatever, that's up to you. I'm not sleeping in there.
you're like cool, like when room assignment was going out, like you can take the kukui room. I want no part of that.
And she wants to trade rooms with me, and I'm like, she's like, but my room's bigger. I'm like, nope, don't care.
Like I will live in a closet if it means I don't have to sleep in that damn room. Oh man. No, like remind me after this off air. I have just remind me of ghost rooms and I will tell you my thoughts on that. I don't want to get it too into because we've kind of we've rolled into a crazy tangent for like an hour and I love it. But yeah, we covered a lot of ground with that. Um,
Just I wanted to share some of my personal. I
no, and
know
I
you like
love
the
it.
spooky stuff, my personal
I love
stuff that
it.
I've experienced and still do experience from time to time. Like, yeah, from time like it's just weird. From time to time, I still do experience it.
No, and that's for sure. I wholeheartedly get behind that. Um, it's crazy to me when people diminish someone else's. Like there are definitely some things out there that we can't explain that are just going to be from the perception of whoever experienced them. And I wholly believe personally that spirit is a real thing. That you know that's a thing that happens. People have these experiences, and they are in fact real. I personally have had some crazy ass shit happen. Um, that I can't explain with science, that I can't be like, oh, yeah, like that's just because of whatever. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about what is a person's state of mind, what is chemically going on with their brain, how did this stimulate this stimulus, how did this information out here get transmitted into the person's brain for their consciousness to make the call like this is what I saw. Um, because sometimes mental health stuff is going to be real. Like I'm never going to diminish someone's mental state and say because you are crazy, all this shit is wrong, or because you're crazy, you can see something. Again, I'm not a medical person, um, but there is definitely it is super interesting to think about, like even just your experiences, looking at them from a different perspective of like, okay, if it wasn't a face spirit, if it wasn't um, an aspect of a different Greek deity, if it wasn't like a shadow person, like the whole idea of shadow people as a branch off to residual ghosts and hauntings. Like if it wasn't this, what else could it be? And kind of like using your street smarts to be like, okay, this is what I was able to see. This is what I don't know. This is what I do know. And there is definitely, I feel like intuition is a huge, real thing. Like, I have a friend who legitimately, this man, I call him, he has a canary sense. If bad shit's gonna go down, you will know bad shit's gonna go down because you will see him fucking leave. Like, if I had $1 for every time we were someplace and he was like, I have to leave now. And I followed him and then I found out shit got crazy after we left. Like, I'd have a lot of dollars. If something bad is about to happen, his gut, and he's learned from like his personal experience, when I have a bad feeling and my gut says to leave, I need to leave. And it's real. Like people's intuition, there's definitely it's crazy because what is that gut feeling? How does it feel to you? Is it like a
Yeah,
foreboding in your mind saying you should leave? Is it I know some people will like hear that like you hear the stories of people who hear quote unquote angels telling them to like step back and then they step off the curb and a car out of nowhere runs through that curb. Like is that their intuition? Were they able to pick up on some sense, some information that from their naked eye, from their perspective, they didn't recognize and clock, but somewhere in the back of their head, they clocked that information on the periphery, and they were like, "Hey, move!" Like instinctually, like you need to move, protect yourself. Or is there something metaphysical happening, where spirit is saying, "Hey, brain, I need you to tell this person to take 2 steps back." Or, hey, tell
I,
Gelpy he needs to leave that party because the cops are about to arrest everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah. Well, like that. Like it leads me back to something told me not to go in that cubbyhole. You know what I mean?
right. And at
Like,
the time, you didn't know what lay beyond that cubbyhole's door. You didn't even know what's in that room. All you saw was a
yeah,
cubbyhole, and you're like, I'm going to explore. So, like,
yeah.
the question
Like,
becomes did you instinctually, did something, was there stimulus that you saw, but you didn't like clock up top, but it was something subconscious that clocked? Or was there spirit there saying, yo, don't go in there. It's a bad idea. Kid, don't do it.
yeah, and like I get weird feelings. Like this time of year, my grandfather, you know, seasonal depression. Everybody gets it. You know,
Hmm.
wintertime, blah blah blah. You know,
And
up
it's such a
here,
wide variety too, because like some people only get seasonal depression in the wintertime, whereas others get seasonal depression like the summer.
yeah, my grandfather gets it in the winter because he can't get outside. He can't do much. He's on oxygen now, so he can't do what he wants to do. So, you know, the other day, I looked at my brother. I said, I'm sick. I just looked at him. I'm sick. I can't go to grandpa's because I'm sick. I'm like, but somebody needs to go over and spend some time with grandpa. I said, it's a feeling I have. This, that. And I said, somebody needs to do it. So he went over to grandpa's. And I get when he come back, he's like, man, grandma pulled me to the side and she's like, grandpa's been like just sleeping in the chair all day and not really doing much, and then we went over and he was up around playing cards and stuff. She's like, it brought him in a good mood. I'm like, okay. So I just had that feeling that somebody had to go visit with my grandfather for a little bit.
I'm glad that you followed that instinct.
And like I couldn't do it because I was, I've been sick. Like not only
Yeah.
with everything else that's going,
Immunocomprom immunocompensation is definitely nobody wants to be sick and then potentially get someone else sick.
yeah, because I had the cold and I just coming out of the hospital and all that stuff. To me, coming out of the hospital, you have more germs on you than you do before you go in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. To me, hospitals are dirty places. I don't like them.
Well,
Everybody's like,
it's like that whole brain thing, like, yes, they do all of these sterilizations. They take the like medical professionals, nurses, caretakers, CNAs, doctors, different just the whole team involved. They try their hardest. But at the end of the day, this is where someone comes in when they're sick.
yeah. I mean, everybody's like, well, they wear gloves and they wash their hands and this that. Yeah, but they don't change their shirt after every patient they see.
Because
There's
they're
germs on that
overworked.
shirt.
Honestly, medical professionals in the United States are
Oh yeah.
crazily overworked, and we should pay
Oh
them
yeah.
way more than they get paid. Like,
Crazily overworked. I know. And
it's
I know when I
criminal.
go in, I try to I try not to give the nurses a hard time and stuff. Personally, I'll joke around. Nurses love me. They love me.
Yeah, I heard.
I will joke around with nurses all day long. I don't give a shit. Like I
Thrall's
had,
over here shooting his shot.
yeah. Well, I shoot my shot. But like when I did my sleep study, I had a male nurse that sleep tech or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And then when I went back to get fitted for my CPAP machine, he seen that I was on the thing, and he was scheduled off. Well, he seen I was coming back, and he's like, he volunteered to cover the shift because I was coming back. He's like, he's like, there's something about you. You like, he's like, the conversation. He's like, you just made it. He's like, you made that night just so much better.
I
Like
totally
even
get that because you do have such a wonderful just energy about you. I get that wholeheartedly, and I'm so glad. See that right there,
like
that stuff like that like reinforces my faith in people.
like I'm me. Everybody's like, blah blah. I will make the dirtiest, raunchiest, stupidest jokes,
You absolutely will.
and people will laugh at them, and other people are like, "Well, that wasn't called for." I'm like, "Well, you know what? You
YOLO.
don't like it? Don't
YOLO.
listen."
YOLO.
I'm like, "I'm here to have a good time,"
That's right. We're here to have a good time.
and this has been my motto ever since I was in high school. Shit happens when you party naked. And I party naked.
God damn it, Thrall. Trying to keep my composure over here.
I mean, shit happens.
I have
It's
a
just funny.
it
I mean,
is it is
I'm
funny.
gonna bring.
I have a
I'm
thing I
gonna.
wanted to ask you about. Since we've kind of like gone off the topic of like we've been kind of talking about different things, different like spiritual experiences and like metaphysical experiences. Have you ever heard of black-eyed children?
Oh, I've heard of red-eyed children.
Well, these what it is, so it's like it's not like a cryptid, but it's like a paranormal, like a contemporary legend of these creatures that look like children. And they're, they got like the pale skin and just like deep, dark, black eyes. That you see out in the world. They're like out in the roads, out in parks or whatever at night, or they come up on the doorsteps of people's houses, trying to like help, let me in.
Wait,
Um,
yes. So this is the same concept as the red-eyed children that I've heard of. and they're trying to lure you outside or and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, same concept to do bad things to you.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of creepy pastas have been like created around that whole concept. Like a lot of people have written stories about it. Um and it's almost become like sort of like an urban legend, but also like just been a thing that's not only been around the internet, but even just like, things that people talked about for like the last like 40 something, 50 something years, where it's like this is a thing. Like these children, these childlike creatures being sighted internationally. Like it's not just like an Americana thing, it's not just like a British thing. It's they're seen across different parts of the world. And part of it's like, is it like a real, because here's the thing. I was always taught if someone's knocking at your door at night, don't answer. Like it's just like that story we just read with the Fattaville
Yeah,
story.
you
Like
know,
somebody knocks on my door at night, that sucks for them. Like as a kid, if someone knocked on the door and we weren't expecting company, um, we did not answer the door. Like if our parents weren't home and someone knocked on the door, we did not answer. We like didn't do that.
yeah,
And I
even nowadays, like my nieces and my nephews are here. If I'm up here in my room, my brother and stuff's gone. Somebody knocks on the door. I tell them, "Come get me." I say, "Don't open the door. Don't do. Just come get me immediately." Like, it's just one of them things. But you know how kids are. They don't listen. They open the door for anybody.
I mean, my dad, not my stepdad, my biological dad, um, he was very like adamant when I'd go to his house. He was like, "Listen, if someone knocks on the door, you don't answer." And it was because he was told as a kid not to answer the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, as an adult looking back, I know why that's a thing. But as a child, I didn't question it. I was like, okay, I just don't answer the door. And mom had a similar rule. So I figured everybody had that rule. Um, yes, I will fine. I will hydrate with actual water and not coffee. I have zombified potato, made sure I had water, so I'll hydrate.
Well, I'm just saying it because I just had to. My throat's getting a little scratchy.
Ah! But like looking back as an adult, knowing what I know about the world, it's totally a thing. It's been a thing. Whether you're out, like your family lives out in Americana, or if you live on the res, what they would do is missionaries would knock on your door, and when children would answer, they would take them and bring them into residential schools. And those kids might not live; they would just be in a residential school. Like in um you're hearing more about it in mainstream now about like that they're finding all of these mass graves of these children from residential schools and people being like, that's crazy, I didn't know that was a thing. But that's been a thing. And they've been
Yeah.
operating up until extreme pretty damn recently. Um trying to like not like yell and get fucking mad because I get so fucking mad about this. I've been like I can remember really getting that information like in school after I had been told, like years after I'd already been like, if someone knocks on the door, you don't go to the window, you don't answer the door. Um, and it took me a while to make those connections that like, oh, this might be part of the reason. But like,
And that's the same thing I tell my nieces and nephews is don't answer the door. No. And then even with the internet, it gets so bad with the internet anymore. Like my niece, my 11-year-old niece, we just went through her phone the other day on this is literally happened. We went through her phone, Facebook Messenger. She was talking to this dude. like this guy,
Oh
grown ass man.
no.
And he's like, well, where do you live? She's like, well, I'm not comfortable telling you that over the thing. And then the grown ass man blocked her. Like, what do you think was gonna happen?
That's gross, and I hate that.
And she's like 12 years old. I'm like, why are you even talking to people you don't know? Well, I thought he was cute. He is stinking 30, 40 years old.
Also, I'm never gonna blame a child in that situation because what the fuck was this 30-year-old doing?
Well, yeah, that too. But like,
Especially that. Oh my god.
in this
That's
day and age,
terrifying.
I, my brother doesn't even like him playing like online games
I
because
hear
it's
that.
just so bad anymore. Which goes the like in our day, like when we were kids, it's don't answer the door. Now it's don't talk to anybody that you don't physically know,
Which
and
is
it's so bad.
it's so I don't know if you remember the Stranger Danger campaign.
Yeah, I do. When I was a kid, yeah.
And and it's so weird because they did this to avoid kids being snatched up. I know we're completely off spooky people topics, but I just want to say this. Like they put that out to be like, yeah, like stranger
Well,
danger, don't talk to strangers. But
it's not that we're off a spooky
no, I mean
topics.
it's
We're just,
definitely it's creepy.
it's
It's
definitely spooky topic.
yeah, no, for sure. As an auntie, as a TT, like this shit's terrifying to me and like I will absolutely go to jail protecting any of my nieces and nephews. I got no
But
qualms
anyhow,
about that. I got no qualms. But
back to the
but with the
to the
stranger
people.
danger thing, it was so like statistically speaking, the year after that campaign started, child abductions like skyrocketed
Oh yeah,
because like not all of them are strangers. Like it's actually but
oh yeah.
off the topic, like we kind of got off track. So like the whole like these so red-eyed children, which I hadn't heard them called that, or the black-eyed children. It's been like a thing for like way before the internet was a thing, before it kind of took traction with that. Um, but a lot of this is like friend of the friend ghost stories. It wasn't like something they wrote down. It was like a
You
verbal
know,
thing. But people like they don't see it as an actual encounter. They a lot of people culturally set it up as like, oh, it's like an urban legend, I personally have never been in a situation where I have had this, seen this firsthand, or heard someone who's had a firsthand experience. But definitely
I
the whole
have.
idea of like creepy ass kids being outside your house, knocking at your door late at night, like it's scary because there's definitely like that whole idea of things that are like the anglerfish, things that
Well,
pretend to be one thing so they can get you, to trick you out.
uh, I I dated this girl not that long ago, probably a year or two ago now, maybe three. And she was the first one that told me about these children, red eyed, black eyed. She said it was a child, dark in color, red eyes, out in her yard, trying to get her to come outside. But she stayed inside. But on the second hand of that, while she was inside, this woman appeared and said, "Stay inside, come to me, you're safe." So,
What?
yeah,
What?
yeah. So, was it two hand in hand or what? But she's like, she's like,
That's
I turned
fucking
I
nuts.
just stayed in my room, and I'm like, but like, there on the one hand, she had this child outside her house, and then she
Trying to
had this,
beckon her outside at night.
yeah, and then she had this other thing manifest inside her house in a different room, trying to get her to go into that different room. So it's like, okay, one's a child. Do you trust the child? One's she said it was a woman in white, like not white, like grayish white clothes.
Did she
So like,
recognize the woman? Was it like a familial spirit or
no, she didn't.
just like
She didn't.
Some random ass woman in white in her house.
in her house. So she's like, I knew I wasn't gonna go outside because the thing outside looked inherently bad.
Right.
And then the thing inside was saying, "Oh, you're safe. Come to me."
Mm-mm.
So, and I'm like, well, because she called me like immediately, and I'm like, well, you know, stay in your room,
That's
watch TV.
that's definitely that's fucking wild, my guy. That's wild. I'm not gonna
So,
discredit her personal experience, but that's fucking wild.
so to me, it's like, okay, so what really is going on? Are these kids out there? Are these kids black-eyed
Are
children? Or
are these actual in that situation? Was it an actual child? Was it a paranormal phenomenon? Or was
yeah,
it something going on with her mental or chemical state? How did that come to be? That's fucking
yeah.
wild.
So, and that's the only real instance that I've heard of these
These
children.
creepy
And then,
ass
of course,
kids.
I looked it up online after that to see if it was a thing. And that's the only instance I've heard of two separate ones. What's up, zombie?
Oh my god. Zombified potato coming in here with the cheers. It looks like it's the little unicorn whose nose looks like a pee pee.
So, yeah, but it's just weird some
No,
of the
it's def
things
that shit's fucking wild.
that you see and hear of and stuff. But I don't know. And to go on to those mass, them schools you were talking
Yeah,
about.
the
the- Um, I know it up until I think it was the 80s or something. They still had these houses and stuff where people, single women that got pregnant, would go to these houses, like off in the middle of the woods, and have the pregnancies taken care of.
yeah.
And I guess they're finding out about a bunch of these places where when they did that, the girls were never heard of and stuff like that. Well, apparently there, I can't remember where it was, but there was one that this one lady went to, um, a reporter or something, and she found like an old diary or a notebook or something, and turns out that the person that wrote the diary or something was her mother that went to this place to have her pregnancy taken care of, but they had drugged her, took the baby, which was her, and then killed her mother and buried her in the woods in like this mass grave. And apparently, this is what they were doing to a bunch of these women.
That's fucking terrifying. And I
Yeah.
definitely want to address that. I do real
Hmm.
quick, since we did talk about the residential school, I have in my links, um, a link for the Orange Shirt Society. Um, it's an organization that that's working to bring um more information and start that open dialogue about the residential schools to like to the front of everybody. They're a good organization to donate to if you guys have money burning in your pockets. But that's terrifying. That whole oh god, people like we can talk about all sorts of spooky, scary shit like demons, scary ass monsters, cryptids, the whole idea of like the Fae taking over and all this other scary alien crazy shit. But at the end of the day, the things that really get me scared down to my core is the just fucked up shit people can do to each other. You
Yep.
know?
Oh yeah, I know. Absolutely, I know. Or the fucked up shit people do to themselves.
It's it's oh man, let's talk about cryptids. Like let's change subject to a happier note and talk about some crazy animal that'll eat people. Um
Crazy animal that'll eat people. Let me Google that real quick.
you're like, what could it be? Well, have you ever obviously I think everyone's heard about a chupacabra. But that's a calm we're gonna calm ourselves down from all this scary, real scary shit and talk about a chupacabra. That will make me feel happier and safe.
You know, there actually is an animal that they call a chupacabra now. It is a hairless dog that lives in Mexico,
Hmm,
and they call it a chupacabra. So it is an actual definable term now.
hmm. That is definitely a thing I didn't know, and I'm glad I know that now. I
Yeah.
mean the word chupacabra or chupacabras, it's straight translation from Spanish as goat sucker. Um, basically, I know it started out in like Puerto Rico and in that. Oh my god, Al, did you just cheer me a bunch? Thank you so much. You did not have to cheer me at all. Thank you. Um, it looks like if I'm looking this up now, which is crazy, but the first attested sighting of the chupacabra, if you had to guess, when would you say it would be? Like off the top of your head, just guess.
I'm gonna say 1950s.
Crazy, right? Because that's the thought I would have. Like, yeah, it's definitely been around for a while. The first attested sighting of a chupacabra is actually March of 1995,
Okay.
which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I thought that this would be something that we had documented much earlier than that, but it looks like a lot of sources are pegging it around 1995. Um, you see that it's a lot of the times it's in like the Caribbean, Central and South American um, areas. So we're looking like Mexico, southwestern states, Puerto Rico, and parts of South America. Right? It's definitely crazy. I thought it would be a lot earlier than that. Um,
Yeah. I thought, 50s, 60s, which is
yeah,
still, relatively not that long
that's
ago.
like within a
Well,
generation for sure.
yeah.
Um,
But
but
80s, that was the year I was born
it's just
to
I mean
age
okay,
myself.
so there have been sightings in the 70s. Um, as far south as Chile or as up north as Maine. I don't know how much I would believe the Maine sightings just because of how they describe the animal. A lot of people report it to be the same type of thing, like almost like a reptilian animal the size of a very small bear with spines reaching out from the base of its neck all the way down through its tail. And even just the drawings of it make it look very reptilian. Um, and reptiles don't do good in the cold. And if anyone has ever been to Maine,
I would love to go to Maine.
it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm from Vermont originally, so I may be biased, but I don't think Maine is that like personally, I don't think Maine's that special, but that's just me. But I hear it's a very beautiful place during certain times of the year. With it being coastal, there's definitely some pros and cons to that, depending on
Yeah.
what time of year you go.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll chupacabra before we get off on another wild tangent for
Yeah, because we're gonna be
several
here for.
minutes.
I mean, other countries have had some reports, like apparently Russia has had reports of it. It's lovely. Maine is lovely in Maine, according to Awesome Owl. But a lot of these are uncorroborated. They don't have evidence. Um, so the ones that they can attest that have some form of corroboration or evidence is a 95 is the earliest. So that's the difference. They've had folklore talking about it, but not a lot of like first-hand encounters that have been corroborated.
Yeah, it's them things like I remember watching. My dad watched a lot of the conspiracy theories and UFO stuff when we were kids.
Yeah.
So like I remember watching some of this stuff on TV about the Chupacabra, and the Jersey Devil, and you know UFOs and aliens and stuff. And when I was a kid, I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, yeah, yeah, whatever. But now as I gotten older, and I actually did some research on the chupacabra, found out that it isn't a hairless dog-like animal that lives in Mexico. Like they've actually caught one, seen one, and they named it. Might not be the traditional cryptid that we're thinking of, but they have caught this dog, hairless dog-like animal down there.
Yeah,
And
it's almost so I know that there have been sightings that were originally attested to be the chupacabra in India, but they found out later it was like a dog, like a
like
type of dog that was just like super fucked up and like malnourished.
yeah, mange or something. I remember
Yeah.
those stories. They have something over there. It's like, almost like a. It's what kind of animal? It's like a fox, but it's on long, straggly legs, and if it gets mange, it looks terrifying. And it has a like a naturally god awful, like musky smell to it. Over in India, I can't remember what it is, but yeah, I do remember saying they caught them over there, and then it just turned out to be one of them that had mange, and it was way
Those sketch ass
malnourished and bad.
dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so I do remember that from when I was a kid and stuff. But like the actual chupacabras that I remember being a kid was like a little two-legged. It walk like two-legged. And like you said, it would feed on goats and other farm animals, goats, cows, and stuff like that.
like it wouldn't be a cryptid that would come after you.
Yeah, it was just animals and stuff. So, and then some people are like, "Oh no, it's just the bats, the vampire bats and stuff like that." Because vampire bats feed on. I don't know if it's vampire bats, but anyway, vampire bats that would feed on goats and cows and stuff. I think it's vampire bats anyway,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But they don't bother humans. So somebody's like, "Oh, it's just one of them, abnormally large, blah blah blah," and other ones are like,
That's gonna be a pretty big fucking bat though. Cause like if they're saying it's like a small bear, that's a wide variety. That's a huge range from like a small bear, like a bat to a small bear. There's definitely
"Ah."
that's
Well,
crazy to me.
you have your fox bats, which are very big bats, but they only feed on fruits and vegetables.
Yeah,
So,
bats are such sweethearts.
but yeah, like the vampire bats, they say their bites are so bad, so you can't even tell that the animals can't even tell.
Yeah.
So, and then there was people saying, "Oh, the chupacabra is more like a mink or a fox or weasel-like creature." And I'm like, I don't know. And then
Again, that's such a crazy size difference. Like
yeah,
to
I
me, that's the
know. Like
first thought.
you
I'm
get all
like,
these
hold up, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
you get all these different stories, and then it comes out that it's a a hairless dog-like creature, which is even smaller than, it's still smaller than a bear-type size creature.
I
So, I don't
just
know.
it's crazy. No, and that's definitely something when you're talking about cryptozoology, when you're talking about different cryptids. Part of looking at that from an objective standpoint is kind of comparing the different legends and saying, okay, this lines up with this, so this probably is the same thing. But with stuff like the chupacabra, because there's so many different like variations on the tale about describing the creature and just even just the lack of substantiated sightings, even if we're not going on evidence, if we're going on sightings alone, the fact that we're not seeing multiple people saying, oh, I saw this with this person, or like I saw it at the same time, like, and it looked just like this, not having that be for the most part what happens, like even with like UFO sightings, even with stuff like that,
There's
you
so
do
many different.
you have people going, yeah, I saw it, and then someone down the road's like, yeah, I saw it. But with the chupacabra, we're not seeing that. We're not
No,
seeing that by and large, or even just in isolated incidents. Even if we had like four separate instances where more than just the one guy saw the chupacabra, or if they even could be similar descriptions. Like think about Mothman and the Mothman sightings. Were the descriptions 100% exactly the same? No.
no.
But were they close enough or similar enough and within a short amount of time enough that we could kind of map out a trajectory or a chronological, like this happened, then this happened, then this happened? Yeah, honestly, I think you can.
Ooh,
Especially, I know
you're
you
going.
have some information on the Mothman, and I've just kind of like slid into that. But,
Yeah. Like,
but
yeah, with the Chupacabra, it was so many different stories, so many different stuff throughout. They never got an exact thing. Even people that said they seen it on the same night, the same farm, it was two different things.
yeah, two vastly different descriptions of this animal.
So then people were like, well, maybe the Chupacabra is a shapeshifter. Yeah, but if they've seen it at the same time and it's two vastly different things, same time, same place, it can't shift without somebody noticing that it's shifting.
No. Unless it's like a fifth dimensional or higher creature that is appearing as one thing to one person and as another thing to another. It's like that whole idea of I'm looking at something that is red. My mind identifies that color as red. You identify this as the color red. But are we seeing the same color?
Yeah, I don't.
People's minds are fucking nuts. Like, but at the end of the day, trying to describe a creature and having those descriptions not match up, even
Yeah,
remotely, is crazy to me.
and they're like, well, you only see it at night. Well, so shadows could take place. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I never really believed in the Chupacabra cryptid simply because everything on it was so different.
No, for sure.
Just like the
It's
Jersey
hard to
Devil.
buy in and say, for sure, I believe in this. I don't even think it's plausible, to be honest with you. Um, because a lot of creatures, especially as society is encroaching on natural habitats, a lot of creatures have kind of shifted to become nocturnal to avoid running into people. And, agriculturally speaking, things eat livestock. Sometimes that shit just happens. You know?
Yeah, I know. Like, the place where I go take pictures of deer, simply because I know that's a controversial subject. Um, the guy had a bunch of coyotes now that were taking down his cattle. Like, coyotes usually don't chase after a cow. They're
No,
gonna
I
go after
recently
something
started learning
smaller.
about coyotes recently. Typically, for the most part, like a coyote by itself is not a threat, but a pack of coyotes working in concert with each other can absolutely take down a cow, can take down a big animal if
Yeah,
they're if
but
they're
they don't.
together just like as a pack.
Yeah, but they don't normally do that. They normally go after, you know, like the biggest thing they did before a cow would be like a deer or
Yeah.
something like that. And still, they wouldn't go after like a full blown buck. They'd go after like a fawn or something like that. But these ones were like taking full grown, 1 ton cows down in his pasture field simply because the area around him was starting to get, you know, industrialized.
So
So
they were trying to find a food
their
source.
food source got pushed out.
Was this a
So they're
dairy
going to
cow
go
by
after
any chance?
beef cow.
Oh, okay.
So they're going to go after the next available food source. Well, you know, cows are relatively docile. I mean,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't want to piss one off, but because I've seen what they can do with just a little kick, not meaning to cause you no harm.
Yeah.
But like, still, you get 4 or 5 coyotes against a cow, and they're going to take it down.
For sure,
And
especially if they've got like I'm not saying there's like a war room with like coyotes with different little helmets on being like, "All right, here's how we're going to take down Bessie." Like I'm sure that didn't happen. But like to some degree working as a pack to take a big animal down does take some form of
which I fully support um animal conservation.
yeah.
So like, you get too much of anything, it's a bad thing.
Yeah, because the ecosystems like
They can't handle it.
yeah, it's like what is that K for carrying capacity? Um it's the amount of a specific type of animal that the ecosystem can support without impacting other creatures, flora and fauna in that
Which
area.
nature would even itself out in this capacity. But now humans went and stuck their nose in it.
Yeah, agriculture is not normal. Um
So
Invasive
like,
species that we're planting to harvest, animals that we're bringing into different areas to farm, is a huge detriment. Is definitely an impact on local local animals, local fauna, stuff that wouldn't
so
necessarily have a predator per se. That would just be a part of
me
that ecosystem.
me as a hunter, I will flat out say I hunt animals. I hunt them.
Yeah.
Yes. But I don't just hunt one particular type of animal. I will go out if an area is overpopulated with, say I go
So
to
you're
farm
so
A.
you're so you're a you're there's a name for that kind of hunter. The ones that follow when the local wild game and wildlife guys like, "Hey, this season's being put up because of this reason. People please
Yeah,
go do it."
like like there's no close season on coyotes in the state of Pennsylvania. Coyotes have gotten out of hand.
Yeah, cuz they've been pushed from other areas
Yeah,
into that.
and they have been introduced because they wanted to control the deer population
Yeah.
because reasons. I'm not going to get
Yeah, no,
into that.
that's a whole other thing.
So
But
like,
like I hear you.
say farm A has an overpopulation of coyotes
Yeah.
and an underpopulation of turkey. Okay, so I'm going to go to farm A and I'm going to shoot the coyotes.
Right.
But farm B has an overpopulation of like raccoons that are destroying his corn crop and an underpopulation of deer. So I'm going to shoot the raccoons
Yeah.
and I'm not going to shoot the deer. And then like farm whatever has a nice meld of different various animals. Well, then I might take a couple deer, I might take a couple, squirrels or something. But like,
Yeah.
I don't go to like farm A. who has an underpopulation of turkeys and an overpopulation of deer and shoot all the turkey.
No.
Well, that don't make sense. You know?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's in my mind, that's sustainable hunting practices.
so,
Not overstepping you're like setting a personal limit based on the overpopulation amount to kind of get stuff back in control.
and that's where I say a lot of these, or say hunters, are lazy hunters because
They don't take the time to think about that.
the coyotes are killing all the deer. Okay, well, instead of going up in just deer season and shooting your deer, why don't you go coyote hunt? Therefore, it'll get the coyote population down and the deer population to come back up.
Al, did you just accuse me of being a fae? Or did you accuse Ty of being a fae?
Or did
Hold
you
on, chat
accuse me of
happened.
being
Chat
a
was
fae?
happening. Okay, glamour, like each person sees it differently. Yeah, like the whole idea of glamoring. Um,
Well,
to having someone perceive something different than what it actually is.
so
Okay, I
yeah,
see what's happening there. Yeah.
yeah. So you know, I mean, and that's the same thing when I go fishing.
We always end up getting into like, and then we're in the woods. And we this happened when we did the bear thing too.
Eh,
We're like, no, we're gonna talk about hunting practices.
will you stop
Tune
me?
into next week's Spooky Saturday, where we talk about how to make snare traps. When and where. No.
Oh, I hate making snares. They're such a pain in
It's
the
such a pain in
ass.
the ass, for sure.
There's so many laws in making snare traps. I gotta take a class, and no.
It's not only that, but it's like the whole like not so much like because there's different types and how to do it, but then it's like then you gotta continue to fuck with it, and
Yeah,
it's
and
like
then you gotta
just
check. Then you gotta get up early in the mornings, and then you gotta run your snare line. It's a whole thing.
I would just rather not. Like
Yeah,
if I could just not, that would be great.
but yeah, but yeah. Back to
back
the
back to
to
spooky
the
shit.
different different intakes and stuff on stuff. You know, and it comes down to like dragons. Like you got your western dragons, you got your eastern dragons, and they all boil down to the same thing, which is giant ass snakes. So,
Yeah, like the whole serpent thing, because I actually did do a little bit of research to kind of get into the mindset of like what specifically differentiates a serpent creature from a dragon, because you like there are different, again, cultural things. Like you see like the standard western, I'm doing quotations, no one can see it, western dragon, where it's like four legs, wings, blowing fire, ready to fuck shit up. And then you've got
still
like
has that
several,
has
yeah,
that like slender neck, uh, snake shaped head.
yeah, and then you have these different types of dragons. Like the most common thing that defines a dragon is the fact that it can fly. Dragons are flight. Now, some dragons don't have wings. Like there are specific Eastern culture dragons that
Mm-hmm.
they don't have wings, or they have two wings but they're like a worm. And a worm is a fire breathing snake um that like burrows into the earth and lives among the magma of the earth. Um, and it's just, and it kind of got me thinking. So, like, outside of the flying thing, not much can differentiate between what you would classify as a dragon and what you would classify as a serpent. Like, there are definitely some things, and again, it depends on what cultural lens you're looking at a dragon from, because some people will associate wyverns and just flat out be like, "That's a dragon." Wyverns, for our viewers at home, have two hind legs and two wings, and they are they're reptilian dragons. They blow fire. And then there's the whole like thing like, how do they produce fire? Is it a gland? Is it like a chemical reaction from something like a gas they're spewing out that their body naturally
So
creates and then like a click, like almost
it
like a
also
flint in their throat?
it also depends because you're specifically saying fire, but then there's some that are like ice dragons, storm dragons,
Yeah.
and that stuff, which is the D&D type dragons. I'm doing air quotes now as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, for sure.
But like those are the dragons that I believe in, like the D&D type elemental magic dragons.
No, for sure. And
Um, like I believe like the Chinese Eastern dragon. Okay, that to me is a snake with a fancy flying snake thing. To me, that's not a dragon. I mean, to their culture, yes, it is a dragon. I'm not gonna shit on their culture,
no, for sure. But it's
but
definitely it's like it boils down to how does someone individually interpret and define the specific traits that equal a dragon rather than just like Draconis as like a kingdom of animals or like as a you know what I'm talking about, like a classification of animals. Because if you look at it
where
from
you're
like
not a
that
human.
way, then everything that falls into this category could be a dragon, but specifically you could be looking into subspecies, and that to me is like mind blowing for like thinking about like how would you scientifically classify a dragon?
I classify a dragon as a four-legged, winged creature with elemental or magical powers.
And the whole idea that magic is science we don't understand is something I
Correct.
definitely want to stamp on that shit because I mean think about it. All right, so obviously in our times, no one has seen a dragon, right? Like
I
no
have.
like Joe Blow yesterday didn't like go down to the fucking Wawa and see a dragon doing whippets in the parking lot. Like that didn't happen. Maybe
No.
it did. Who knows what Joe Blow was doing over at Wawa. But like you
Joe
get what I'm
Blow was
saying,
doing some,
right?
Joe Blow was doing some blow on the parking lot, seeing some shit.
Just everyone was doing whippets in the parking lot. No, but like you get what I'm saying? Like it's not like someone yesterday said I saw a dragon. For the most part, a lot of the SS stations, a lot of the stories about dragons throughout multiple different cultures are back in the day. Some of them were verbal stories that got passed down through those verbal cultures, while others have like been documented in like different like scrolls, different written works. What is it called when they do like the medieval pretty drawing work? I'm
Like
looking in my brain I can see it, but there's a
yeah,
specific word for it and I
yeah,
can't
like the
think of it.
hieroglyphs and all that stuff. Yeah,
Well, no, like specifically like the medieval one.
I don't know.
Not calligraphy.
Calligraphy?
It's like when they
No.
have the where they like have the colored drawings on the side of the text. There's a word for it. Illuminated text. I think that's it. But like you have these different things from like before the 15th century with different images and not even just specifically of the western dragon if you're looking at a eurocentric standpoint, but of like different creatures like worms that they would refer to as a dragon, which is just super interesting to me. And it gets me thinking, at what point would someone make a distinction like, would you classify Jormungandr as a dragon? Or would we stick to Jormungandr is a serpent? Um, I personally think serpent. But like, you have stories of dragons also existing in the water.
Yeah. You know, to me that again, your people will refer to them as sea serpents, again serpents,
Yeah,
or I call them blue dragons because blue dragons, water.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, to me, and then you have all these different things of dragon culture and stuff, and it's like like you said, the 15th century, they have drawings of them, like, and they're all similar, and you got the stories and all that stuff. Like, somebody at some point would have had to have seen, heard, or something, you
Yeah,
know? Like, so in my eyes, they they may not exist now, or if they do, they're in a state of dormancy,
right.
or they have had existed somewhere in the past,
And then
and
either
all
evolved or extinct.
yeah, and they're saying, oh well, we haven't found no bones of dragons. Well, how do you know? You're digging up dinosaur bones. How do you know they're not dragon bones?
And it's crazy because when
And
you
just
look at
different
the
evolution
drawings of
states.
dinosaurs, like how they just assumed it looked one way, and now they're like, well, wait, now we think dinosaurs had feathers,
Feathers.
and it's like, but couldn't it couldn't it be possible that even that interpretation is incorrect? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like,
Or
who's to say that, like the pterodactyls of old weren't dragons?
exactly, because right now we're basing our information off of recreations
Bones.
that someone made of how they think a creature looked hundreds of thousands of years ago based on the bones
Rock
that they have
impressions.
now.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's
I
so
would
everybody tells me, oh, dragons aren't real. They were never real. How do you know?
exactly. How do you know?
Why are you
It's
shitting on my beliefs?
what I think would be very interesting to see, and this is just my like personal like I would love to see this. I would love to see someone break down like a scientific classification of like different dragons, like domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Like kind of break it down like, okay, this is what dragons could be. Here's the specific subspecies. Like I want someone to map this shit out. Like for
So
my brain, I want the like this is the information I crave because I enjoy looking at different I like data.
I have
You
to
know that.
react to what Al said in chat. Al, if I ever seen a flying snake, I would literally empty my shotgun, reload it, and empty it again. A flying snake is terrifying.
Illuminating manuscripts. Absolutely. I saw a flying snake, I would be happy I wore brown pants that day.
Oh god, I would run and get the nearest gun. I'm sorry, I would. It would be like 4th of July up in this bitch.
Up in this pit. But no, like, but you get what I'm saying about like the classification thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, I do. And we're taking all these people's words for it. Like, oh, I have a fancy degree, and I say this thing was this many years ago, and it,
But
was this subspecies of this.
part of scientific discovery is being able to replicate replicate the same question, follow the same steps and come to the same conclusion, but you have to be able to juxtapose the variables like and you have to be able to for certain say no this isn't a thing, yes this is a thing, and we have this to back it up. Like there is no particular record that how do we know that a pterodactyl wouldn't have metaphysical powers? You know what I mean? Like you make a very valid point about the pterodactyl.
I mean, there's, you know, snakes spit venom. Some snakes spit venom. Some snakes inject venom.
Yeah,
And then you got different insects that spit venom and stuff. Who's to say that there wasn't a gland or something in a dinosaur or a pterodactyl that
and because it was
allowed
soft
them to
tissue it eroded and was gone by the time we got to the bones.
yeah, that allowed them to spit a acid like or fire like it wouldn't even have to be fire, like an acid like substance.
I remember when Game of Thrones was on the air, I got into a fight with a random ass person on the internet about the mechanics of Daenerys's dragons spitting fire. I got into an and I was like, "No." I was like, if you look at it, like you can very clearly see like little glands in the back of Drogon's throat in some of those like big throaty yells where it looks like that's where they would expel some form of gas or liquid and you can almost hear like a click. So what if it was a thing where there was like igniting in their mouth, which is why they didn't burn out their throat? That makes perfect sense to me. And I
That
like the
brings it,
idea of like a dragon being able to open its mouth and throw lightning. Like that's dope as fuck. I would love to
yeah,
see that. Not
and
personally because I would shit myself, but like you know what I mean.
well, even in oh, what's that cartoon one? How to Train Your Dragon.
I've
You got
only seen one of those.
the one dragon head that clicks its mouth and makes sparks, and the other one that puts out like a gas. Well, that's not coming from their throats. That's coming from glands and stuff in their mouth.
Yeah. I mean, we know
So
enough about how animals are that we should be able to definitively rule out one or the other, but it's so hard because we're looking at bones or we're looking at things that we don't have physical remains for, potentially because we're misidentifying something or potentially because those materials are gone. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So we're running off of there's no way we would have a preserved soft tissue sample to say, "Hey, this could be a dragon versus
I
whatnot."
remember when I was in kindergarten, I got yelled at in kindergarten
Who yells at a
because
kindergartner? That's fucked up.
my teacher because we were coloring and I colored a dinosaur bright colors, right? And we're supposed to be doing this thing where dinosaur, color them to their environment. And the teacher's like, "That's wrong. It doesn't fit in with the dinosaur environment." I said, "How do you know? We don't know what color these things were." You know what I mean?
No, exactly, and especially we don't have records giving like color pigment to the fauna, the flora of that time when dinosaurs were
You know,
around. I
you know,
got yelled
probably
at for coloring a tree pink and the leaves rainbow. That's rude. Why are people mean to kids?
leaves are rainbowed in the fall.
Exactly, exactly.
And
Like
if the
it's
sun hits them just right, the bark on them can look a little pinkish.
for sure.
So, no, like like me painting my Warhammer figures. Like the one I painted is a light variation of purple. Everybody's like, "Well, that's not what color it is in the book." Blah blah. Who cares what color? I wanted it purple, so I painted it purple.
My biggest pet peeve about historical like recreations, like for instance, like whenever you watch a I'm doing quotes, you watch a period piece of like medieval times and everybody's dressed in dark colors, they look like shit, they're just like rah, rah, rah. And
Yeah, and
like
they say,
yes, to a degree, not crazy vibrant colors like purples and certain shades of blue weren't super common, but other bright colors were absolutely worn commonplace by all sorts of classes. It was a specific thing in that time period. Bright colors were everywhere, and it drives me fucking bonkers to watch these quote unquote period pieces where everybody just looks like they're depressed, like they're the opening montage of a Zoloft commercial. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's not
I know what you mean because they're going for, oh, we're repressed and this, that, and the other thing, and the common folk only wore grays and wools. Well, they dyed
Al,
those.
did you cheer me because I was talking shit about recreations? I love you. Thank you. You don't have to give me bits, but I appreciate you.
But like, yeah, the period. I watch a lot of period pieces on Netflix and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I get what you're saying. Like the common folk, they put in all these dull, drab colors, and I'm like, no, they used to dye them. Like
Yeah,
they
like of
go out
course
and
there are
pick.
going to be certain dyes that people wouldn't that a common person wouldn't have access to just because of the compounds that they would need to get it would be expensive. That makes like purples, like that makes sense to me. but there are so many other colors that they absolutely would have had access to. And like we have proof that they did wear that. So
Yeah,
it's
like
like
your reds and your yellows and your
exactly,
common flower colors, because that's what they
exactly.
would use is be like the flower colors.
Yeah.
Like even the Native Americans that had different colors. Like, you know,
Oh, she's back.
who's back?
Moscow.
Let's
She's
go.
Moscow's come in here to talk her piece. All right, she's
So
done.
like, yeah, a lot of the stuff is just weird. I mean, we can't put a definitive yes no, even though they're trying to. Oh, they didn't have this colors and this. Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I mean,
just like
there's
the dinosaurs saying, "Oh, dinosaurs weren't bright; they were greens and stuff." Like, you know, look at the birds today. Look at our,
the
a lot
plumage
of
of
the
birds is crazy.
right, and they're saying that the birds came from the dinosaurs. So
In theory, it would make sense that dinosaurs, if they were
if
prehistoric
they had
burbs,
if they had feathers, they would probably be brightly colored.
yeah, and also if they didn't have feathers, but they had some type of venom or some type of poisonous attribute to them, it would make sense if they were smaller in stature to have those bright colors to tell predators like don't bite me because it will be the last meal you ever have.
Like the
Well,
poisonous frogs we have today, they're
yeah,
brightly colored. And the ones that aren't poisonous are camouflaged.
it's to me with the whole dragon thing. I would love to see. I know it's probably such a niche market, it would be impossible to get like funding to do additional research. But I think even just having like a think tank go through and just use information that we have available, or even just start small, flowchart with like a classification for like culturally what dragons could be. I personally would love that information. Everybody who knows me knows I love like informational, like infographic stuff, like topographical maps or like data maps that show like this how many sightings of whatever. I love information like that. I love having that information available. Yes, Moscow. I hear you. She agrees. Internet, my cat agrees that we should have someone fact check this. But
Thing is everybody say, "Oh, dragons are lizard-like," this, that, and the other. You know, if dragons are lizard-like, why aren't we looking at modern-day lizards?
exactly, we should be able to see a clear correlate, and you do see in some respects, like there are different creatures that alligators came from that we can go back to up to the Mesozoic era and be like, this is what an alligator came from. Um, and then we have these big ass scary birds that trolled South America for like the longest time. After the impact from the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. These giant ass birds who were like just straight up murdering everybody, murder birds, that were huge. That if you were just looking at the skeletal structure of that shit would look like a dragon. Who's to
Yeah,
say that they're not confusing that and it's the other way around, and that dragon looks like a bird? Because I wasn't there. Were you? Like we
nope.
can't say first person like, yeah, that's a bird 100% because I can see that. Like
Well,
at some point someone has to look objectively at it. And I understand that the lens that they're looking at that through is like, I know birds are a thing because I can see them nowadays. But the amount of creatures that have lived, died, and been extinct and we don't have records for, or even the creatures that exist now that we have yet to discover is astounding. It is staggering. So it would
n-
not surprise me if there were dragons at one point. So many variations of dragons, its own
not that.
classification, and
I,
maybe we just haven't found where they're chilling, you know?
yeah. Well, my previous statement of like the Chinese dragon or the Eastern dragon. You know, there's this thing that they found that they call the Titanoboa. You ever heard
Yes,
of the
I
Titanoboa?
have. I have heard of Titan.
Who's to say that's not an eastern dragon or, a eastern dragon?
Yeah, because we have no way of knowing whether it was flightless or not, because
Yeah,
Eastern dragons typically did not have wings. They just, like, yeeted themselves through the sky.
yep. I
So,
say they ride the wind currents with their magical flighty abilities,
yeah.
but, like, so who's to say that wasn't one? And even if it couldn't fly, who's to say that, you know, it didn't live up in the higher regions and it
When it
just,
jumped, it could, or even like when it moved from a top region to a lower region, it wouldn't appear to be flying.
yeah. So, you know how folklore gets tossed around. Hey, I seen this giant ass snake flying.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're gonna call it a dragon now. You know?
Yeah.
So, who's to say? Not
Um,
me. I
for
didn't live back then.
for
I don't own a
our
time machine.
listeners and our viewers, in case you were not aware, the Titanoboa is an extinct, very large snake. Um, that is that was believed to have lived in the area along the plate, along the landmass that is now northeastern Colombia. They are estimated to have been up to 42 to 45 feet in length, and about 1,200 kilograms, which is a lot in people. Hold on, in American pounds. Let me see. Um, that would be 2,645 um roughly pounds. So over a ton. These
The
big
size of a school
snakes,
bus.
huge, a
Yeah,
huge
like,
ass snake that
yeah.
literally either constricted or just swallowed shit whole. Um,
So they say.
so they
They
say.
say it
Again,
was a
no one was
snake.
there to see it. It's one of those things. It's conjecture. Um, Paleontology isn't. I mean, again, I'm not shitting on their science because I am not one of them. I don't know the amount of training you have to go through to become a paleontologist, and I have the utmost respect for anyone pursuing sciences for the betterment of everyone's knowledge. But a lot of, from my perspective, a lot of paleontology is going to be guesswork. It's going to be saying, this is the information I have, here is what I can for sure prove, and here's what I think it is, and being able to present that information to your peers and have them, as a consensus, agree, like, sure, dinosaurs are reptiles. But then later on, someone else was like, hey, I can get my peers, a consensus of my peers, to agree that dinosaurs had feathers. So who's to say Titanoboa, this giant, massive snake, maybe it did have flight because of something physical that it could do, or even something magical, metaphysical, a science that
Maybe
we do not understand because of
maybe
what
it
we
didn't
already
have
know.
flight and it just, fell with style,
Yeah,
you know?
fell with
Like,
style, absolutely. The
I know
Titanoboa just being
there are some
the
there are
most
some modern
dope.
day snakes that flatten their body and will ride the air currents for a certain ways and glide down through the trees.
Yeah.
So who's to say this giant ass Titanoboa couldn't do that? Not me.
Yeah, no, I mean there are snakes nowadays that do that. There are specifically flying snakes. There are 5 as of right now, according to National Geographic, there are 5 recognized species of snakes that fly. From western India to the Indonesian archipelago. I said that completely wrong, and I'm so sorry. Don't
Archipelago.
archipelago, archipelago. But yeah, I mean these are snakes that legitimately, because when they descend from canopy, They ride the airwaves. They ride those currents. And there are 5 different types today that could do that. So it is absolutely, I think in my mind, plausible to some degree that a giant ass snake who could fly would be the basis of an could be potentially the basis of the Eastern dragon myth. And we look at different creatures now, like the what's it called? The Komodo dragon. That's a very stout reptilian creature that's very aggressive. Who's to say way back when it didn't come from an ancestor that did have wings, making it the western dragon with 4 legs and dragon wings. Maybe they're bat-like wings, maybe they were outstretched, um, more like a bat wing or a mammal wing.
Maybe
Who's
they
to
weren't
say? Or
functional
even
and they
just
just had them.
reptilian. There are so many variables out there that we can't specifically answer, um, just due to the fact that we have a lack of evidence either way. It's not one way or another.
I like my theory, which is just my theory that dragons are in the world. They are mythical creatures that are in dormancy.
I mean, that's entirely possible. I know during the Are They Real segment with Happily Morose, we discussed the concept of lake monsters being in a dormant stage, under the bed of a lake,
I
chilling,
mean,
waiting for their time to come back. Who
how
knows?
much of the earth is yet to be explored? I mean, they are still discovering tribes of people in the Amazon.
For sure. I mean, and even if we take it to the other degree, like, okay, some of these quote unquote dragons, some of the things that we would identify as a dragon have been documented, tested in those different folklores, in those different mythos, to have been both of air, land, and water into the sea. So it could potentially be the case that because they were just dope as fuck, at one point they just went to a place to ground in water. Um, I mean, we're not going to touch base on like the different pressure and what that does to a body of water, but like it's entirely possible. There's so much of the world,
Well,
the waters, like the waterways, the oceans that have yet to be discovered. It would
and
not
everybody
it would be doing everyone a disservice to say that absolutely is out of the question
and
because it's
and
not.
to cover this part of the opposing argument, I'm just gonna say there are creatures to this day that don't come out of dormancy for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, so what's to say it
So
couldn't be a longer dormancy than that?
yeah, you know, who's to say? I mean, just because bears only hibernate for the winter doesn't mean other things don't.
No, for sure.
I mean,
I mean, think of the
it,
cicada.
well, I'm gonna bring it even to this: an alligator. Okay, an alligator that's out of its element, or a crocodile that's out of its element. Say it gets trapped in freezing temperatures where the water's gonna freeze. You know what that alligator does? It sticks its nose up out of the top of the water where it can still breathe, and its body goes into a state of dormancy. And then when the water thaws out, it is perfectly fine. And has been documented and witnessed. So, if a cold-blooded animal like an alligator can do it, who's to say? And who's to say dragons were that big? You know what I mean?
That's also a valid point. Um, there's a there's a whole myriad of stories that you hear about megafauna, but minifauna is also quite as likely. Um, and I think it would be much easier to prove, in my mind, that dragons exist or did exist on a smaller scale, or even that if they existed on a bigger scale at one point, that they may have, for survivability purposes, resource managing purposes, evolved over time to be smaller creatures. And I think that would be a lot easier to prove. If you found an example of something like that, you would attribute it to being a weird ass bird or a weird ass lizard.
Yep. I mean, there's little creatures in the ocean, little blue. I forget what they're called, but they look like dragons, and they're little tiny, like they fit the palm of your hand, and they look exactly like the Western dragon. I
No, I
forget
want
what
to.
they are.
So they're
Um,
blue.
yeah, they're. Let's see if I can Google a picture of them.
Oh, are you talking about it's called the blue dragon. It's
Yeah,
brightly colored sea slug.
yeah, and it looks like a little thing. Yeah,
Those things are hella fucking poisonous too.
yeah, they are.
Those are some. Yeah, they're even scarier. Like, they're more deadly than the man o' war. But they're so cute! Oh my god! Chat, please look this up if you can. They're so cute, and they're rare too.
Yeah, they are rare. And then they have there's a species of birds that actually look like dragons.
Oh, are you talking about the owls that look like dragons?
Yeah, the little bird things. So who's to say? I have a picture of them somewhere on my phone, I think.
I think I've seen it. Google, don't fail me now. Google, you're failing me. Why would you do this to me? Maybe it's not an owl. Maybe it's a burb.
It is an actual bird. Um, hang on, bunny.
Oh, I found
Here.
it. The great-eared nightjar.
Yeah, the nightjars.
They do straight up look like a little dragon.
Yeah,
And they're a
and
burb.
they're a bird, and they're covered in feathers. So who's to say?
Especially if we're going on the theory that dinosaurs could have been dragons. And people are saying dinosaurs could have been burbs. Something like this would have tracked. There's a lot of
Yep.
interesting information out there. And there's so much information that we can find, I think, in the future with some studying, with some, creative investigation, and just, retrying those different theories to see what's going to make more sense. There's a lot out there that can be done. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if 20 years from now they came to the same conclusion that you and I kind of broached today. Or maybe they'll disprove us. But hey, that's the beauty
I mean,
of
it,
scientific
co-
discovery.
it comes to the thing of everybody said UFOs weren't real, UFOs weren't real. And then what, 2 years ago, the US government released, oh yeah, here's all the documents on the UFOs that we have.
I still haven't had a chance to delve through those. Not that I'm
Okay.
discrediting whether or not they're real or not. Those documents are real, but you raise an excellent point. Absolutely. If if these things did exist, would the everyday man have access to that information? And
So
it's
like,
definitely I like this. I like this. I like how this I think at some point we should definitely delve into this specifically because I know we've covered a lot of ground today. We read that really cool
we,
story about
yeah,
Fayetteville in the beginning. We kind of broached the idea of ghost metaphysical stuff, being able to, like, what defines an experience as plausible. Intuition, we covered the black eyed or the red eyed children, different things like that. And then we also kind of like segued into a lot of dragons. and scientific classifications. I think we've done a pretty good job of, having a great time, getting into some really hard hitting facts. I do want to take time, though, now to step back out of our spooky mindset and talk a little bit about you. I know you're working to get affiliate.
I am, which is something I really want because a lot of people that stream, you know, have other jobs and stuff. I don't. So
Right.
I want to get affiliate so I can try to make this a career type thing. Um, but on the other side, I have a lot of other interests too. I like to go hunting. I like to go fishing. Um, my brother does taxidermy. I like to help him with the taxidermy stuff. Uh, I like to just chill sometimes and just like the other day. What was it the other day I was doing? Oh, the other day I was in my Discord and I just felt like watching Pokemon. So I started streaming the original Pokemon series in my Discord just because I wanted to. And whoever wanted to join me could have joined me. I like my computer. I've built my computer from the ground up. Uh, I like things like this. I thoroughly enjoy just sitting and bullshitting with Bunny. Like, I came into today with the only thing that I had in my brain today when I came in was cats chase off negative spirits or negative energy. That's the only thing I came in today with. That's it.
The power of waffling and
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 I,
and diving down rabbit holes.
like, I don't get to talk about this stuff with my family. Like, they don't understand it. My family is very, this is this, this is that. They have their beliefs, they have their mindsets. That's what they set into. My family doesn't even believe that I can make the video game thing work.
I fully believe you can. I
I have
know
been at this for a year as of a couple days ago, and I am so close to making affiliate,
so
and I am
close.
pushing. Now, in that year, things have happened. My health,
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So I haven't been consistent with it. But lately, I'm pushing, and I appreciate all the support that all my online friends are giving me.
absolutely. We're definitely here for you. I mean, I know just stepping back with Spooky Saturdays and just in general, I like to have conversation that I enjoy hearing other people's perspectives, and I don't like to lock myself into one thing for certain. So I really enjoy being able to delve into experiences, topics about folklore, mythology, cryptids, and just general creepypasta spooky shit. I enjoy having these conversations for sure. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be something you're amazing at because you are honestly such a wonderful storyteller.
And I welcome anybody, whether it's in my Discord, Bunny's Discord, whoever. If you want to bullshit, just send me a message.
Thrall's amazing at bullshitting. Um, he's a good conversationalist. Is it okay if I drop the Dragon Den invite in
That is
chat?
perfect. That's perfectly fine. Um, you know, I gotta get back into. I gotta respond to Survivor scenario,
Oh shoot, yeah, I need to do that. I'm so sorry.
but um, yeah, that link should take you to the Dragon's Den Discord. Wink, wink, Dragon's Den. I don't like
It's
dragons.
a great place.
It's a great place that nobody visits very often. No, I'm just kidding. I pop in there. Mainly, I'm in Jotun's Gnome Court, but you can hit me up in the Dragon's Den whenever. You can DM me whenever. Hit me up on Discord. Whisper me on Twitch. You know, I will bullshit. I like to play games. I will play. I play all kinds of games. I play, co-op games. I play MMOs. I do this, that, and the other thing. I'm really into Stardew at the moment, so if you want to play some Stardew, I'm always up for that. But if you want to talk hunting, if you're into hunting, I will talk hunting with you. I'll talk fishing with you. I will talk Warhammer. I'll talk Pokemon. I have so many interests that's all over the board. It's not funny.
It's actually phenomenal.
Like I, I collect pop vinyls. I have all kinds of dragon decor. I build Legos. Star Wars. I watch Star Wars and all that stuff. So, I do lots and lots of different stuff. Magic the Gathering. It,
you cover so many different I know a lot of your content covers a lot of different grounds, and I know that you do some art stuff. You're doing a lot of you do some co-op games, some single player games. And I do know that you've been doing a lot of kind of getting into the swing of like the weekly community night sort of deal with Gnome Cord. I know you've been pretty active in the Shadow Guild as well, which we're always here for. So glad you're with us on that. But yeah, I have the utmost confidence that you're gonna fucking rock it as an affiliate for Twitch. I'm so excited to see what this year and this coming time is gonna do for you. So excited to see what sort of new games, what sort of new stuff you're gonna get into. But for anyone in chat, I did drop the link to the Dragon Den Discord. Feel free to pop in there, say hello. And if you haven't already done so, for sure visit Thrall's Twitch channel. I've dropped the link to that as well. Give him a follow, check him out, and turn on those notifications so that way you can know when he's up to something, whether it's playing a game, doing some art, or just chit chatting.
and I plan on getting an external hard drive, and I plan on doing some strictly YouTube stuff.
Ooh, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on that so I can get that updated.
So, like, I once I get my external hard drive, because I just don't have enough space on my PC, and find out a good video editor program, probably gonna do some maybe a Terraria series, maybe RimWorld series off stream. I'm doing one on stream currently. Um, Maybe I'll upload my Pokemon stuff because I don't think Twitch particularly cares for emulators. So, you know, I do all kinds of stuff. Maybe Minecraft series instead of trying to do Minecraft on stream, I'll do Minecraft where I can record it. Because for some reason Minecraft don't like my computer and it lags.
Well, we will definitely have to keep an eye on that. Um, Again, Thrall, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to come hang out with us. I really do appreciate it. Um, you've been
All it
phenomenal, and I
did was
can't wait
save
to see
me
you
some
back
work.
here because I've got you.
April something 16th.
I can tell you right now because I'm so cool. Yes, April
April 16th.
16th. That's only a few weeks away. I know next week, guys, we're not going to have a spooky Saturday due to me being out of town. However, the following week, we'll have Reverend Crowley on to discuss all sorts of spooky shit. Again, in the meantime, please feel free to follow and love all of Thrall's content. And I really hope you guys have a great spooky Saturday. I know I'm going to sleep like a baby bear. And I'm going to raid. It looks like I've seen somebody who's on right now doing Observation Duty 3, and it looks like they're also playing some spooky games as well. Um, but I want to give them a little bit of love. Again, I hope you guys have a great time. And thank you, Thrall, for being amazing. Um,
And everybody, I want to say support Bunny. She got affiliate. She's doing great.
oh
And we
my
want to
god.
see more Bunny on more days.
Yes, I will try to stream more than just the once a week. I've been doing good. I've been trying. I've been
No,
trying.
even if it's, I know Bunny does a lot of Phasmo at like midnight.
Yeah.
So even if you stream your Phasmo at midnight. It's a stream.
Well, I know mom's coming up on her Phasmo for level 666. We're gonna do a cheeky little stream on hers. And then when I get 666 level 666, we're gonna do the same thing because it's spooky and why the fuck not? But yeah, um, that's all I really got for right now. And thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful time. Say bye, Thrall.
Throw